Weekends on UME Radio. Get the UME Radio app.
Are you ready for the weekend?
Oh, yes, girl. Get your cup of tea and mic check, 1, 2. I am so ready.
To inspire, motivate, and educate. Weekends on UME Radio. The sun is up and so are we.
News, interviews, hot topics. Connect with us. Let us know what's on your mind. Follow, comment, subscribe.
We're everywhere. UME Radio app, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, iTunes, TuneIn, and all other digital platforms. Email us info@umeradio.com. On WhatsApp, 201-503-6731. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram and Facebook, all at UME Radio. Follow me, Jessie, on Instagram at ink.jess. That's ink.jess. And on Facebook at Jesselyn Abel. That's JESSELYNE Abel. ABEL.
And follow me, Marsha J, on all social media platforms at official Marsha J. Or you can just check out marshajnow.com.
Weekends on UME Radio with Marsha J and Jessie.
Amplifying the voice of positive influencers.
UME Radio. Positive entertainment 24/7. Subscribe on YouTube and click the notification bell.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning. How are you this morning? Hey, Jess, what's up?
How you doing?
I am not bad at all. It's Saturday. It's my favorite day of the week.
I know, mine too. How was your week last week?
It was interesting. It was really, really interesting, but I made it through. Hallelujah. One of those weeks. I'm so grateful to be alive. How about you?
It was good. I went to my best friend's birthday. She had a celebration and saw a couple people. So yeah, it was nice. It was good.
Awesome. I love the fact, I love when friends can support friends because it's not easy to find real people out there. So that's awesome.
Yes. With that being said, we treat you guys as our listeners as friends and family. So we want to say a good morning and thanks for joining us for Weekends with Marsha J and Jessie on UME Radio, where we share stories, engage in conversations, and gain insight into issues affecting New York, the Caribbean, and Africa. We're looking forward to a great show. We want to say a big thank you to all of our partners, supporters, listeners, and viewers from all around the world. Thank you so much. We know a lot is happening around the world, so we want to jump right in. We have some amazing guests joining us today, so let's get into our devotion, courtesy of Our Daily Bread. But just before that begins, here's some reminders. It's now August 21st, 2021, and the time is now 8:03 in the morning. And to listen or watch this episode or others later on, you can listen to UME Radio on all major digital platforms. This includes our app, our umeradio.com, Apple Store, Google Play Store, iTunes, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Google, Podbean, TuneU, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, and Listen Notes.
Awesome. I just want to say hello to Satin Brownie. She just said hi. Hi, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Hi. All right, let's get into our daily devotion.
Your encouragement from the Our Daily Bread devotional was written by Allison Kita. It's titled, Carried Through the Storm. During Scottish missionary Alexander Duff's first voyage to India in 1830, he was shipwrecked in a storm off the coast of South Africa. He and his fellow passengers made it to a small, desolate island, and a short time later, one of the crew found a copy of a Bible belonging to Duff washed ashore on the beach. When the book dried, Duff read Psalm 107 to his fellow survivors, and they took courage. Finally, after a rescue and yet another shipwreck, Duff arrived in India. Psalm 107 lists some of the ways God delivered the Israelites. Duff and his shipmates no doubt identified with and took comfort in the words, "He stilled the storm to a whisper. The waves of the sea were hushed." They were glad when it grew calm, and he guided them to their desired haven. And, like the Israelites, they too gave thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love and his wonderful deeds for mankind. We see a parallel to Psalm 107, verses 28 through 30 in the New Testament. Jesus and his disciples were in a boat at sea when a violent storm began. His disciples cried out in fear, and Jesus, God in flesh, calmed the sea. We too can take courage. Our powerful God and Savior hears and responds to our cries and comforts us in the midst of our storms. Today's Our Daily Bread devotional scripture reading is from Psalm 107, verses 1 through 3 and verses 23 through 32. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story, those he redeemed from the hand of the foe, those he gathered from the lands, from east and west, from north and south. Now picking up at verse 23. Some went out on the sea in ships. They were merchants on the mighty waters. They saw the works of the Lord, his wonderful deeds in the deep. For he spoke and stirred up a tempest that lifted high the waves. They mounted up to the heavens and went down to the depths. In their peril, their courage melted away. They reeled and staggered like drunkards. They were at their wits' end. Then they cried out to the Lord in their trouble, and he brought them out of their distress. He stilled the storm to a whisper. The waves of the sea were hushed. They were glad when it grew calm, and he guided them to their desired haven. Let them give thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love and his wonderful deeds for mankind. Let them exalt him in the assembly of the people and praise him in the council of the elders. Let's pray. God, we thank you for not leaving us to face our storms alone. You are a great and mighty God, and you give us peace when the challenges of life just seem too overwhelming. Thank you for loving us so much and for providing a place of comfort and refuge in you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Today's encouragement was provided by Our Daily Bread Ministries.
Wow, that was awesome, girl.
Awesome.
You gotcha. And
Yes,
we
carry through the storm. Do you know what it feels like?
pardon, you got cut off a little bit. What do you say?
Let me know if you can hear me, yes?
Gotcha.
Yes, I'm saying it was an awesome devotion. Carried through the storm. Have you ever had a storm that God had to literally carry you through?
Many.
Yeah,
I'm just laid out there. I can't do it. Just take the wheel. It's out of my control.
totally agree with you. So let us know in the comments. Good morning again. We have Sam Brownie. Hey, weekends, I am present. Top of the morning to you. Hey there. Let us know where you are from. Full devotion. Thank you so much, Sam Brownie. Entrepreneurs Aloud. Good morning, Marsha, J, and Jesse. Good morning to you too. Yes, let us know where you are watching us from so that we can give you a quick shout out and let us know if you've been enjoying the morning's proceedings so far. Right, Jesse?
Yep. Hashtag where you're from. Hashtag weekends with Marsha J and Jesse. We'll get that started.
Definitely, definitely. So, coming up in our show today, we'll be looking at what's happening on the front times, the CARICOM news, and top stories in Africa, followed by Because of You We Can, Entertainment Now, Wealth Mindset, Voice of Truth, and Travel Boss. So let's get right into it.
All right, guys. So this here is the front page of the New York Times, and the main front page. That picture is captioned Khalil Haqqani, who leads a powerful Taliban faction and is one of the U.S. And is on the U.S. terrorist list, is playing a major role in the new government. And we have top of the news page here. Despair in Kabul undercuts Biden on rescue effort. President goes on defense as criticism of U.S. evacuation grows louder. The desperate scenes at the Kabul airport reverberated around the world on Friday, forcing President Biden to defend his handling of the chaotic evacuation and fueling recrimination from American allies that are struggling to get their own citizens out of Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. We hear benefit cutoffs failing to ease labor shortfall. Bad bet hurts efforts to expand COVID screening. Company destroyed its test supplies just as U.S. cases soared. As we scroll down, Taliban employ tweets to push distorted view, a presidency and its values put to the test. We have a picture here that is frustration building in Haiti, waiting for food in Les Cayes, where scuffles broke out over supplies a week after a quake. And we have this, looks like an elderly woman here, just waiting for food and begging for food. We also have new Jeopardy host leaves putting a TV institution in chaos. Offensive observations on podcasts resurface. And guys, this is on the front page of the New York Times. Marsha, what's going down in the Caribbean?
All right, so these are the stories making the front page of the Caribbean news, and we want to say thank you so much to today.caricom.org for today's news. So, trending, we have a message from the CARICOM chairman, Honorable Alan M. Constante, on the current situation there. We have Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency press release. That's a CDEMA to deploy COST members to Haiti. We also have CARICOM member states given framework for learning recovery in the education center. Prime Minister Holness from Jamaica announces no movement days to curb C-19 surge. We have CARPHA, CARPHA, introduces online form to report adverse events following C-19. The CTU to discuss internet governance priorities in post-COVID-19 era. C-19 funding plea to combat Delta variant, call to suspend booster rollout. And we have banana exports, the demise of green gold. Suriname president says CARICOM must do all it can to assist Haiti. CARICOM chair, Secretary General, thank Lacroix for his contribution thus far. President Ali, CARICOM SG discusses food security and regional development. Right. CARICOM at work, we have CARICOM member states given framework for learning recovery in education center. Over in personality, on that page we'll have history, making PM Maya Motley has monumental plans for Barbados, and under in-depth we have our exports gone. And so these are the stories making the front page of the Caribbean News from today.caricom.org. And moving on over to Africa, and we want to say thank you to africanews.com for our information this morning. Just in, biogas changes attitudes towards waste in rural Benin. Morocco's king denounces methodical attacks on his country. Uganda non-profit groups decry government suspension. We have Libyans mark anniversary of liberation in Tripoli. And scrolling down some more, we have DRC, at least 18 dead in fighting between the army and ADF rebels in the east. In South Africa, public interest for COVID vaccine declines as fear spreads. In Burkina Faso, death toll from jihadist attack in north rises. Disable the Dominican Republic of Congo, street musicians push for copyright recognition. Over in Nigeria, faced by rising insecurity, citizens organize to ensure their safety. In Guinea demands fresh diagnosis on Ebola patients. Cameroonians. In Uganda, the government suspends activities of 54 NGOs. No military solution to Tigray conflict, UN Secretary General. And we also have in Nigeria, excess opioid use persists among young youths and shatters dreams. And yes, and shatters dreams. So these are some of the stories. And if you scroll down on the page some more, they have their picture of the day. And over in business, we have Kenya's tourism sees tickle of post-pandemic recovery. And in sports, Kenya's Kipoje back home after Olympic success. In science and technology, app disrupts healthcare services in Eastern Dominican Republic. So these are the stories making the front page of the African News. And we want to say again, thank you to africanews.com for this information. Yes, Jesse. Woo, so much going on. So much going on. Jesse, I don't think we can.
I'm here. I'm here. Yes. Okay. Yes, a whole bunch is going on. We do want to have some highlights on three top stories that have been going on this past week, which are Cuomo, Haiti earthquake, and the Afghanistan crisis.
All right, so We are thrilled to have in studio with us today. We have a few guests that are coming, and we have one guest that is already in. So we're going to start the conversation with her. And we are thrilled to have with us in studio today teacher Miss Kimberly Christie. How are you, Miss Christie? Let us know if you can hear us.
Hello. Hi, good morning.
Hey,
Morning, morning.
How
thank you
are
so much for
you?
being here this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome, awesome. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I am fantastic.
Okay, good to know.
All right. Thank you so much for coming this morning. And we know that you are a Jamaican teacher and you are,
Mm-hmm.
yes, you are from, well, you are teaching in Afghanistan. So I want to have a
No,
conversation.
no, no, not in Afghanistan. No, not there. No, in the Middle Eastern region, but it's not
Middle
Afghanistan.
Eastern
Not at
region.
all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. Let's open with your thoughts on what's happening at the moment. Please share with us your perspective on what's currently happening in Afghanistan with the Taliban and what does it mean for the residents there?
All right. So this here is a very unfortunate and sad situation. Um, From news reports, it seemed as if it was a long time coming because they have had similar incidences about 15, 20 years ago. Uh, However, it is just, as I said, sad that even in 2021, there are still some rigid laws and structures that still take precedence and and things that is being enforced and trying to be reinforced on the people of Afghanistan. Uh, the funny thing about it is that the Taliban they are guided by the Sharia law, and the Sharia law speaks about peace and everything that is good. Are you hearing me? I'm wondering if my internet is stable.
We're hearing you loud and clear. You can continue. Yes.
Okay. So it is just as I said, contradictory that they are guided by a law, the Sharia law, that speaks to peace, that speaks to everything that is good, love, and they are their interpretation of both completely different from what it is that we know it to be. And the thing with what is even more disheartening is the fact that the females, sorry, the women, they are still not entitled to education under that law, and they're dressing the way in which that they're expected to dress for education for children. So it is almost like a step backward. And where I live, which is in Kurdistan, pretty much probably like a 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours flight time from there. There are there is not that where it's not either. I say not even should. I do not know of any cases where people are. I know that there are villages where children do not go to school, but it is not a case where it is a definite law that they cannot go. So more than likely it would be a thing of choice, or whether it is that they are not able to afford to go, considering that they're also very poor people in that country.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I hear you say that you are in Kyrgyzstan. I think.
Correct.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. It's probably frozen on my side. All right, so you're in Pakistan. What's the difference between where you are and Afghanistan?
Mm-hmm.
What are the major differences?
All right, one of the major differences is that education is not deprived of females. The other thing is that they are not as the Muslims there, they are not as rigid as those of Afghanistan or extremist as those. Sorry, my piece. So they're not as extreme as I've met Muslims who are pretty much, well, they behave as if they're Western in terms of how they dress, are there themselves. I have seen people who dress all covered in black, as those we would see on the news, but that is very few and far in between. But I said the Muslims I have seen, the ones I have interacted with, they are pretty normal and wonderful people to talk to. It is that we have different religious beliefs, and they know the ones I've interacted with know I'm a Christian. I know they are Muslims. I have I have a copy of the Quran, so I've read it. It is speaks to love. It speaks to some of the things that are in our Bible, but as I said, it is not. They are not so rigid. But the thing is, in Afghanistan, they do not have any mosques, so they tend to ask people like those who work in the NGO sector take some time to go to their country or go to another country to refresh, because there's little to no entertainment. So what they believe is that the lack of entertainment will play on those people's minds. So they believe that if they go out for some time, they can refresh themselves and come back into the country.
Okay, awesome. We have a question here coming in. Where is that? I'm assuming where is Kyrgyzstan? I think that's a question. I mixed up all those Middle East
Oh,
countries. Sorry.
oh, Kurdistan is to the south of Turkey. And next section to Iraq, I'm not going to give any false information. I don't remember if it's north, south, east, and west. But we are pretty much central to Baghdad, Turkey, Syria side. So yes. Oh, and we're also near Lebanon.
Okay, okay. Do you know like any persons that are over on the Afghanistan side? Like, what is their experience? If you do.
Well, yes, I know of one person, as I say, who works as a consultant there. So it was from that knowledge I was able to tell you about the fact that they do not have malls, because I'm like, a country without a mall, a country without any entertainment, any cinema, nothing, just
Wow.
supermarkets and places to get produce. So it's not like we can shop for clothes there, like how we are used to stores, right? So it's not like they have that setting. So what she had said, or what she had expressed, was that they give them either 3 to 4 months to stay in the country, so they can leave for about 2 weeks or 3 and come back, because they think that staying there too long will affect their mental state. So that is why and these are generally experts, because the person I know is an expert. So she'd leave and come back. But the thing is, she has always chosen to stay. And in this instance, they had actually told her that she needs him. And lucky for her, she's out of the country in all of this that's taking place. But yes, it is. Well, we hear that they pay good, but it's just that the situation is, in terms of the social life, non-existent. So and based on this came about with the Taliban destroying all of these entertainment facilities in their time of years.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. We have another listener viewer question that's coming in from Entrepreneurs Aloud. Thank you so much for this question. It says, how does what is happening in Afghan affecting where you are?
All right, I don't think it is affecting where we are gravely. The thing is, well, one, people are going to be concerned, going to be emotional about it. But I believe that if people from Afghanistan can flee and get to Kurdistan, then they would readily accept them, because there are people who have fled from Damascus, Syria, to come there. So, yes, it does not really affect it doesn't affect our economy. It does not affect tourism. There are some Taliban descendants who are still from that group, but they're in very small numbers. So it is not like it is going to affect how it is that it's not going to destroy the country. We don't perceive that it is going to destroy the country anytime soon, but it is not, we're not affected by what is going on, and just the emotion.
Thank you so much for that. As a neighboring community in terms of Kyrgyzstan, what are some of the concerns on the ground that you've been hearing with concern to their neighbors? Because I think Kyrgyzstan and Afghanistan, they're type of neighbors. What has been some of the conversations that are happening?
Well, from people who I've spoken with, of course, the expats, of course, they are afraid, because this is all new. A couple of years ago, there was ISIS that was trying to get in. Our neighbor Syria is affected by ISIS even now. So they are fighting both COVID and ISIS. With this new thing, there are just talks about it, people expressing how they feel, how unfortunate it is such is taking place now. Of course, the blame game as to which responsible and why. So, they're talking about Russia and Pakistan, especially since they believe that the whole Taliban thing is from Pakistan, is stemming from Pakistan. And Pakistan has denied that they have anything to do with it. So it is just a constant blame game and just underground conversations. But it's not like the news reports or major news centers, they are carrying anything to say that what is happening in Afghanistan is a threat to the country, or is a potential threat or something that can happen, or maybe they'll try to overthrow in another 3 months or so. No. So it's just that people are they feel. Radio shows have people coming in to talk how they feel, etc.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I heard you talked about an approximate projection in terms of um, what the news persons may have to say a few days or weeks coming from now. But based on your whole observation of what is happening and your analysis of the situation on all sides, looking over at your neighbors, hear the conversations from your peers, and just thinking about it. What's your opinion? What do you think is going to happen a few months down the road if things do not change?
Well, one, if things do not change, the suicide rate that they are currently experiencing may even go up, because they see that people are afraid. This here, the thing is, everything is for the females, they are at a great disadvantage. So if you notice that the males are the ones at the forefront trying to flee, and because there are laws that the women are supposed to stay behind, they are supposed to be seen and basically not heard. So it may breed some frustration. They're taking away some level of their independence, some of their freedom of movement. So yes, this being a rigid structure, this being a case where the Taliban, they have their laws and they are going to enforce this Sharia law. So I believe that in years to come, unless somebody or unless another country intervenes and tries to stop this, if other countries will open their borders, maybe, or if some can come in, find a way to escape, like how, you have the Haitians who go on boats and escape to other places. So like my country is landlocked, so there is no boat to escape to. But there may be people who will try to escape this, who did not get a chance with the mass escape that took place last week and this week. They may try to find ways to flee because it is not a good situation for them. It is not something that they enjoy. They fear these people. And based on images that we have seen, they are deserving to be afraid of. So I just believe that people are going to find ways to leave one way or the other.
Yes, thank you so much, Miss Christie. For those of you who are just joining us, we're inside our hot topic segment and we're speaking with Miss Kimberly Christie. She is an educator in Kyrgyzstan, neighboring country to Afghanistan, and she has been sharing with us all morning about thoughts and other information about what has been happening there. Thank you so much, Miss Christie. And now we're going to turn our attention to the country of Haiti. And we have with us this morning Mr. Garfield Burford, Caribbean top journalist. Welcome to the podcast this morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Good to be with you. Very good morning to you, your significant audience, a huge and growing audience. A very good morning. Happy to be with you again.
Yes, thank you so much for coming. And you are returning guest, and we're always delighted to have you on. All right.
Indeed. Happy to be here.
Yes. Here's my question for you. You are one of the many journalists who participated in the coverage of the aftermath of the earthquake in Haiti in 2010. Based on that experience, can you give us some insight into the kinds of challenges the recent earthquake damages could be causing its residents, especially given the recent killing of the president? And
Right.
let me add this, the hurricane that hit directly after.
Right. Or the tropical storm Grace. You're absolutely right. I think that it has been almost a perfect storm, and pardon the pun, because when you look at the challenges that Haiti has had, Haiti was in a very difficult situation long before the assassination of the president, long before the earthquake in 2010 even, and then long before the earthquake in 2021, just last Saturday. Haiti has been in a very, very difficult situation long before the assassination of the president, Jovenel Moïse. So in other words, you're talking about these now being the latest in a series of almost uninterrupted crises in Haiti. It is just a very, very difficult, almost conveyor belt of challenges for the country. It's almost dystopian, the kind of situation there. So let's put this into context, Marsha. So the situation in relation to the earthquake, if there is any consolation that can be found here, when you compare this with what happened in 2010, and I was in Haiti for about 9 days after the 2010 earthquake, which happened around about in Port-au-Prince, the capital, densely populated, killed anywhere between 230 and probably 250,000 people. Thousands more, many thousands, hundreds of thousands more were injured and displaced. Some of them are still displaced up to this day, Marsha. What that has done is to complicate an already extraordinarily difficult situation. Sorry. So this has now, there would have been significant lack of recovery for many people since 2010, and now this has complicated it. If there is any consolation, though, is that this 7.2 earthquake, which was stronger than the one in 2010, that one was 7.0, this is 7.2. This earthquake, if anything, happened in a less densely populated area. right? And that has resulted in the death toll not being anywhere near what happened in 2010, when you had well over 200,000 people dying. So far, you've had 2,000 people or so dying. Horrible as that is, it could have been worse had it been in a more densely populated area. So this happened in the southwestern parts of the country, pretty much a peninsula, and so on. So it was not as densely populated as in the interior, where the capital, Port-au-Prince, is. But the challenges are similar, Marsha, to what happened following 2010. The building code is almost non-existent. So when, for example, you have an earthquake at that magnitude, it is going to cause colossal damage because the buildings are not well constructed. You'll see from the pictures, and I would have been there after 2010 and seen for myself, just bracing against some of the what are said to be concrete walls, block and steel, and I could almost push them down, and I am no Samson. So what this shows is that there is a significant challenge in relation to the building code, or lack thereof, or lack of enforcement of the building code. It is frightening what I saw there in 2010, frightening what I'm seeing now from the pictures in 2021. And it just goes to show the importance of building back Haiti better. In other words, I just discussed this yesterday, Marsha, with the ambassador, Antigua and Barbuda's ambassador to the Organization of American States. The OAS had a permanent council meeting yesterday called to focus directly on the challenge faced by Haiti. And he made a clarion call on behalf of CARICOM for the international community to address the challenges of Haiti, to respond urgently with aid and whatever other need there is. But what also needs to happen is that we need to build back better in Haiti, insist on building back better. In other words, it can't be the same buildings that you build that were destroyed by 2010 and 2021 earthquakes. It has to be that there's a better building code, or certainly enforcement of the building code. There must be the structures in place to ensure that going forward, Haiti, because more earthquakes will come. Haiti is in a very tectonically active area. It sits on a fault line. So there will be more earthquakes. How do we ensure that going forward, Haiti is in a better position to withstand these earthquakes without the kind of colossal loss of life and damage that we've seen?
Yes, thank you so much for that. I totally agree. I was actually looking at an article from the UN where it talks about over 94 schools were actually damaged. And so the infrastructure definitely is something that needs to be looked at, even hereafter, in terms of how it is engineered. And just to ensure, even though it sits on a fault line, like how can we, ensure that going forward, it's more than just a building. It actually has the capacity to stand up to the possibilities of all the disasters that may take place there. Thank you so much for that. We have a comment here from Satin Brownie. She says, wow, there's so much going on in the world. I assume that you are reporting the story. What are the key findings re the earthquake and the murder of the president, please?
Right. So, of course, the earthquake would have happened just a few weeks after the assassination, the horrible assassination of President Jovenel Moise. Commanders entered his home, shot him dead, shot and injured his wife, Martine Moise. Fortunately for the First Lady, she survived and she went away for treatment and has since returned to Haiti. Still recovering, but as I said, it could have been even worse. But tragically, the president was assassinated. So there would have been political uncertainty, the social kind of uncertainty because of the assassination of the president, and then the earthquake would have just compounded that powder keg of a challenge in terms of what's taking place there in Haiti. And what is frightening almost is that, again, the structures are almost non-existent at this point in terms of the social and political and legal structures in Haiti. So there is pretty much no national assembly right now. The government of Ariel Henry is, who is the prime minister, is pretty much ruling by decree. He's not been elected, so in other words, you couldn't have had an election after the assassination of the president. Should have been an election next month. That will likely not happen next month. So it is Not just the fact that there's been an assassination, the earthquake, the tropical storm Grace, and so on. You've also had the political instability, the uncertainty about the future in relation to these key positions and structures in the country, the kind of legal structure. There are some missing posts, or posts which are vacant at this point in relation to the court system. The National Assembly doesn't operate. So there are additional challenges that have to be worked out to ensure that when the aid comes in, as it will, that it's properly managed and that it goes to the people who really need it. The real challenge in Haiti, what I saw, Marsha, when I went there, is that there is a chasm between the haves and the have-nots. There's pretty much no middle class there. You're either very rich or you're very poor. And unfortunately, you have the majority of people who are very, very poor. And that's the real challenge, that there has to be structures in place to ensure that the aid reaches the people who really need it.
Wow.
We have a listener question that comes in that says, how does the Caribbean help Haiti? Like, what do we need to do?
Right. When I spoke with Ambassador Ronald Sanders, as I said, Antigua and Barbuda's ambassador to the Organization of American States, he has been a very vociferous voice on the need to address in a meaningful, sustainable way the challenges of Haiti. He said yesterday, the Caribbean has already been doing a significant amount of work to assist Haiti in the aftermath of the earthquake and the tropical storm. The Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, the CRIF fund, is going to be paying out $40 million to Haiti over the next few weeks. I think one of the payments is going to be made possibly $50 million. The first $50 million is going to be paid possibly by as early as next week, if not already. The other $25 million after over some period of time after that. Now, what is clear is that this is by the way the biggest payout from the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance, any one-time payment, the biggest one-time payment so far. The Caribbean Development Bank, which is another regional arm, regional facility, has been paying the premiums of Haiti, because the premiums for this Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility. SEDIMA is also going to be assisting, which is the CARICOM arm dealing with emergency disaster relief. So that's the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency. It is expected to do some logistical work to assist Haiti. So there is significant work that the Caribbean is doing and the CARICOM grouping is doing in relation to using the arms of the bloc. What is clear now is that, as I said earlier, it has to be about building back better. It can't be that the buildings, for example, the replacement homes that are going to be built for individuals are going to be built the same way that these were built. You have to have resilient infrastructure, and not only homes, but also roads, bridges, and so on. There has to be that focus. We now have a huge focus around the world on building back better for climate change. Haiti needs that, because they're not only imperiled by storms and other tropical cyclones, but earthquakes. This is now the second major earthquake in 11 years, and there will be more, unfortunately. We have to be ready for that. Secondly, there has to be possibly capacity building assistance to put better structures in place in Haiti. Because you can't keep giving Haiti a fish. You have to ensure that the people get sustainable and understand how it is to learn to fish. So you have to have sustainable infrastructure there, sustainable systems in place that work for the people of Haiti. Because when I was there, what was the main cause of angst for most people who were affected by the earthquake in 2010, that is? And I reached there about 10 days after the earthquake in 2010. They saw these planes landing, C-17 aircraft, cargo planes landing at the Toussaint Louverture Airport, bringing in supplies. They are looking over the fence and they could see supplies being offloaded off those planes. It took them days, weeks to get that assistance. So the structures to ensure that after the aid comes in, how is it coordinated, managed, and directed to the people who need it most? That is the real challenge. So those structures have to be in place going forward. That's the way that the CARICOM and the wider Caribbean can do. Not just CARICOM, because the Dominican Republic, which shares Hispaniola with Haiti, is not a member of CARICOM. Puerto Rico, which is a U.S. territory, is not a member of CARICOM. Cuba, not a member of CARICOM. So apart from CARICOM, the broader Caribbean can focus on those areas. Of course, there will be the need for immediate assistance, food, water, temporary housing, possibly for the individuals who are displaced. But what is also going to be critical is that as we build back better, or as we build back for the future, it has to be building back better, a better building code, better enforcement of the building code, structures in place to prevent corruption, to prevent people siphoning off the funds that come in for the people and don't reach them. All of those, so governance structures, infrastructure, in terms of making sure that those are in place and built back better than how they've been.
Totally agreed with you. We're wrapping up here with your part of it, but we have another question coming in. It says, listener question: I feel overwhelmed with what's happening in that country. I don't see how to support them. Any ideas?
Right. So pretty much what I touched on earlier in terms of the need for focusing on the long-term future and development of Haiti. Let's be clear. Let's remind our audience, Marsha, that Haiti has been, and co-host, so sorry. Haiti has faced disaster after disaster, man-made and natural. First Black-led republic, 1804, independence from France. France exacted a heavy toll on Haiti, one that used up, in other words, Haiti had to essentially compensate France for having won its freedom, as almost ridiculous as that sounds. So it set back Haiti a very, very long time. So a lot of what was being produced in terms of the economic output of Haiti was going back to France, its former colonial power, its former colonial master. Then Haiti didn't do itself any favors with its homegrown leaders, because you had the infamous Papa Doc and his son Baby Doc, as in Jean-Claude Duvalier and as I said, Papa Doc and Baby Doc. What you had during that time with the Tantan coups and so on, what you had during that time was brutal rule of Haitians by Haitians. So apart from the imperial domination of Haiti by the French and getting the independence as the first Black-led republic in 1804, Haiti didn't do itself any favors either when the Haitians themselves were in power with Papa Doc and Baby Doc. And then after that, you had all this political instability, social instability, economic stagnation. We remember what happened with Jean-Claude, with Mr. Aristide, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, whisked out of Haiti. There's been foreign intervention, which has not always been to the assistance of Haiti. People have essentially intervened for their own selfish interests, several countries. It's almost as if they're dividing and quartering Haiti. It's almost as if we're going back to the days when the European powers were essentially quartering up the third world. So what has happened is that there's been this confluence of challenges, both man-made and natural. Country can't seem to get a break. How do we help Haiti going forward? That's the crux of the issue. It has to be that there is either a government of national unity at this point before the elections, because at this point, Ariel Henry, the prime minister, doesn't have the support of everybody in the country, and he doesn't have the support of key sectors in the country. So what is going to be crucial is that there is a government that is credible, that commands the respect and support of significant portions of the society. Then the structures have to be put in place to ensure that going forward, there can be that focus on sustainable development of the people. As I said to you, the majority of people are very poor, a very small minority, very rich. There's pretty much no middle class. You're either very rich or very poor. When the aid comes in, the people see it coming in, hear about it, they don't benefit from it. They're wondering, aid? What aid? So and that's a function of the fact that there are no structures in place to channel that aid, or the structures are not always in place to channel that aid to the people in need. So how can you help out there? How can CARICOM help? How can the OAS help? How can the US, the G7 countries, how can they help? How can the international financial organizations help? Immediately, funding to assist the people who are displaced, who don't have anything to eat or drink, who pretty much are living on the mounds of rubble, which were their homes. Immediately, there has to be some assistance for them. But it can't just be that international community is going to just always be doling out money. And you haven't seen the concomitant impact on the improvement in the social lives of the people, the social and economic conditions of the people. So in other words, the GDP per capita in Haiti hasn't improved. The Human Development Index hasn't improved, despite all this aid coming in. You know why? Because there is a disconnect between the aid coming in and reaching the people who are in greatest need. So those structures have to be put in place. CARICOM can assist, OAS can assist, G7 can assist, the IMF, the World Bank, the IDB, all of these international financial organizations can assist by creating the enabling environment for there to be transparency, accountability, sustainable systems run by Haitians for Haitians. It can't be parachuted solutions. It can't be somebody from outside coming in to find the solutions for Haiti. Haiti will have to be helped to find their own solutions with the international community holding their hands. And again, I stress, what is a fundamental thing on the ground, which I saw when I was there with my own two eyes, and I couldn't believe it. The poor construction, which almost made it a factor of 10, which compounded the crisis almost to a factor of 100 or whatever the amount of the factor is, because the buildings pancaked. You're talking about a 2 and 3 story building that's pancaked, coming down into like a half a story, because the construction not done properly. You see that earthquake, you see a kind of earthquake like that in other countries, it doesn't cause that amount of infrastructural damage. You have to ask yourself why. I spoke with a Jamaican in Haiti in 2010, and he said, look, if you're fighting too hard, the houses, most of the houses are not built properly. If you're fighting too hard inside, you end up outside, and vice versa. If you hit against the wall too hard, it crumbles. You shake the wall, concrete, block and steel, it's shaking in your hand. And if you exert a little bit more pressure, it crumbles. Point is, the resilient infrastructure, there needs to be a building back better infrastructure, more resilient housing and roads and bridges and so on. Because when disasters come, when disasters come as they will, we're gonna have a repeat of the same situation if we don't fix that sustainably.
I have one very last, final question. How much of Haiti's problems were caused historically by Western powers, including the United States?
That's an extraordinarily important question. So sorry. And it's the geopolitics of it. Haiti has been almost a pawn in a broader geopolitical game. And the real travesty of it, the real tragedy of it almost, is that international powers have had a malign influence on Haiti as opposed to a benign influence on Haiti. We start with France. As I said to you, France, colonial power in Haiti. Haiti got independence 1804. And instead of actually advancing as a first Black-led republic, being a paragon of what was possible by Black people leading themselves and creating their own destiny, charting their own destiny, we've had essentially almost a powder keg. And what we've had, as I said, France almost exacting a tribute from Haiti, demanding payment from Haiti, compensation from Haiti, after having subjugated and exploited Haiti, raped Haiti, essentially asking back for compensation from the Haitians. That was frighteningly, shockingly abhorrent. But then other powers have not helped either. The United States, Canada, they have not been always, look, let's be clear. They've come in, for example, after these disasters and given assistance to Haiti. But what is not happening, what they have not done, is to ensure sustainability in terms of this assistance. It's almost as if you know somebody's, for example, unemployed. If you give them money this week to buy food, obviously, if they're not going to be, if you don't ensure that they have a way of sustainably earning for themselves, next week they will going to come back to you for money, and the week after that. So what has now happened is a system being put in place to ensure sustainability when aid is given. How do you ensure that the aid reaches to the people in need? How do you ensure, for example, that there are training programs, industries that are set up, cottage industries, manufacturing, whatever it is that is going to ensure that people can take care of themselves in Haiti? And crucially, I say this a million times, how do you ensure that when you build back better? And secondly, a lot of the pledges which were made after the 2010 earthquake have still not been paid. Countries pledged money, didn't put their money where their mouth is, because it was fashionable for them to have said, yes, I'm going to assist Haiti. But they didn't follow through with the actual assistance. So there has been a combination of factors. One, Haiti have not done themselves any favors in a lot of respects, especially their leaders. So much corruption over many years in terms of the leaders. Other powers have made it worse, starting with France as a colonial power. Western powers have not sustainably assisted Haiti to make sure that Haiti can find its own feet. So Haiti is always seen as, one, the poorest country in the Americas, and it has been such for a long time. And if we do not get serious about finding sustainable solutions, it's going to continue to be one of the poorest country in the Americas. So there has to, I suppose this might be an inflection point. This might be a point at which the international community says, because there's a lot of donor fatigue with Haiti right now. Countries say, well, we've given a lot of money to Haiti and we haven't seen the result. Fine, you haven't seen the result because it's not rocket science. You have to put in the structures and systems to ensure that there are these results. So this might be an inflection point to say, let's get it right this time, finally, and give Haiti a chance to breathe, finally. Right now, Haiti's
Welcome to Voice of Truth, where we take a look inside migration and immigration stories, community health issues, and stories of hope, based on the experiences of migrants who are people of color. We use other people's stories as a cautionary tale and point of reference to enhance the life outcomes of our migrants.
Hi, good morning, inside Voice of Truth. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Earl Wilson. Thank you so much for coming onto our show today.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And we know that Mr. Earl Wilson is attorney for general practice firm in New York, specializing in civil litigation, real estate, matrimonial, and family, real estate, elder law, and also criminal law. And inside Voice of Truth, we do want to talk about a very major topic, but we first want to talk about what's been going on in New York in light of the Cuomo resignation. And we have some questions coming in. Give me one moment here. So, in light of Cuomo's resigning, what does that mean for the state of New York and the state of leadership everywhere?
That's an excellent question. Well, Governor Cuomo, or soon to be former Governor Cuomo, was elected in 2010 as a Democratic nominee and has been in the office for 11 years to date. He has a legacy that he set up in New York State. He is basically known as a pro-business, almost Clintonian, if you remember Bill Clinton's policies, sort of a moderate Democrat, not too much on the left, but sort of centrist in his politics. And he has basically set New York City, New York State on a path that fits his philosophy. Going forward, Kathy Hochul, who is the first female or woman governor in the history of New York State, which I think is certainly applaudable, notwithstanding how it came about, has a challenge. She also, understandably, I believe, is a moderate Democrat, but to the extent of what her policies will be, no one can really be too sure. And of course, she is a Democrat, so we know that there's going to be only so far she's going to go in terms of maybe to the right. But she has so many challenges right now. The most important one being COVID-19 and getting that under control. That there are just certain decisions that she's going to have to make right off the bat. Probably she's already made. And so it's an excellent question. We are probably in a wait and see mode as to exactly how far she will go in terms of her policy. She indicated she's going to run again. She made that very clear when she was appointed or brought in as the governor, sort of the interim governor. And so we're going to have a very interesting time in New York in terms of governance. That's it.
Pretty much that. Yeah. And another question before we go to our main topic in regards to Cuomo, that no one, since the resignation, the issue with the nursing homes, that kind of got like swept under the rug. Do you feel that she is going to have to address that with, with him?
Yes, absolutely. So one interesting thing with Kathy Hochul is that Kathy Hochul, as the lieutenant governor, was not in the circle of the governor. So she can actually step aside, or she has been able to step aside much of the controversy. In fact, seems like all of the controversy. I know there are questions that are being asked by the Senate and the Assembly as to what role she had to play in the scandal that actually brought Governor Cuomo down, the sexual harassment issues, or the nursing home issues. And so far, she's been able to skirt that because she was always on a different path. As she ran differently. If people sort of remember Kathy Hochul, she didn't really run next to Governor Cuomo when she was running. She ran her own campaign. She was elected, certainly on the same ticket, but she basically had her own path. And since being elected, her role is different. She's traveling the state, sort of like being the one who conveys the messages of the administration, so to speak, but without really being involved directly with the governor. From what we understand, didn't really get along with him. So she's going to be able to address those issues. And my understanding is, yes, she will probably launch some sort of investigation. The Assembly and the Senate are going to require it. And I might add, the Senate and the Assembly, which are overwhelmingly Democratic, and in many cases, in many instances, progressive, right? Kind of left of center, are going to have a role in the governance, maybe a greater role than they would have had with Cuomo, because the influence has been stymied to a certain extent by Governor Cuomo and his style. As many of you in the audience may know, Governor Cuomo is kind of a tough cookie. And he had a certain style, almost, some will say, a bullying style, not well liked by many people. As you may have heard. And so, now you have someone coming in. She's a woman. She's got a different style. She's got the Senate to work with. There's some pundits that are saying that the politics are going to move way left because of the influence of the Senate and the Assembly. And there's some that are saying, no, it's going to probably still be about the same, moderate. As I said, we will see in terms of how things go.
Right. Wow. I don't want to say excited, but I'm curious to see how things go just with you. So our main topic for today, we want to talk about the psychology of racism. And I want to preface that with, there's another question that came in. What a football game. Okay, I think that goes into our main one, but I want to preface that one of our listeners sent in a kind of script, so you say, and I just want to read a little bit of it and then go into some questions with it. So the script that she said is called Colored Conversation. And you have blacks saying, "We built America." Whites, "You may think so, but let's put it into perspective. We bought you, we shipped you here, we paid for your resources, materials, and expertise to build an economic system for our families. Blacks, well, what about all the hours of labor our forefathers should have been paid for? Whites, we gave you a place to live. We brought you to the land of opportunities for your children to be born here and live as second-class citizens. Blacks, how are you feeding me when we went to school and play? How are you feeding me when we went to school and played by the rules, graduated with honors, and are still overlooked for the jobs we qualify for? We even reject our own identity and community to show you that we are loyal and now qualify to be at your table. Whites, that's just it. It's our table. Blacks, but I tried to build my own and the system doesn't work for me. Whites, I know you are trying to build it in my home. Black kids, but I was born here. This is my home. I am an American. Whites, you may think so, but let me tell you what our foreparents failed to tell you. We gave you a place to live. We brought you to the land of opportunities for your children to be born here and live as second-class citizens, which is a step up from your shithole countries. We fed you and we keep feeding you, Black kids, huh? So with that being said, we do have a couple of questions here. So the first one is that some say that racism is a systemic I cannot say that word. Sorry, guys. Systemic disenfranchisement. Sorry, I can't say that word. Never could say it. Of people of color. Others debate that it is an elevated prejudicial behavior of one person against another. Mr. Wilson, how would you define racism? Or how does the law look at it if there is an official definition of racism?
I go right back to the dictionary when I look at racism. Racism is a concept, almost like a doctrine, of superiority by one group, racial group, against another racial group, or one person of a race against another race. And the indicators of that are that the one group who is racist determines that they are superior to the other group or person. And I think if we follow that definition, that's part one of the definition, by the way. If we follow part one of that definition, I think that's one way of looking at racism. And the second way is that group or person that feels a level of superiority or determines that they are superior in some way has the power, has the opportunity to determine the fate of the second group, or the group that is being looked at as being inferior. And I think if you take those two parts, you are going to see racism. If you're not looking at it from that standpoint, then you're going to see racism as being maybe one person of a race, could be a Black person, could be a Latino person, could be an Asian person, feeling in some way that they're better than a white person, or better than a Black person, or better than someone else within that context. And it mixes up and confuses the dynamic, which is what I find today. When you hear the word racism, you'll hear Black people being called racist. And
right, that was my next question. Yeah, if a Black person could be seen as racist.
And I have determined, based on the definition of racism, and you can look it up in the dictionary, I've given one part of it. Part one that I gave is actually in the dictionary. Part two, many sociologists and intellectuals will add that part too, because that is a major focus of how racism as a system, ISM, right? It's systemic, as you mentioned, how it actually gets deployed and how it's been deployed consistently and in different forms over the decades. The 245 years of this country's existence since the Declaration of Independence, and even before that, in the 1600s, when the color of one's skin became an issue, and an issue under which it was determined how you would live your life, or how one would live one's life.
Yep, I know. And how does, I mean, this question is loaded. And we could talk about this for a whole lot. In your opinion and experience, how do Black and brown people view racism versus white people?
Well, hopefully Black people understand, like myself, understand that racism is pretty much like a disease, as we have seen. I was born in another country, so I came here to the United States and have observed how racism has been put in place, how it's been institutionalized. And so the idea of having a systemic racism, and to be honest with you, not all Black people think alike, just so you know.
Right.
But a lot of people like myself think the same way, whether they be immigrant Black people or people that are born here, that there is systemic, institutionalized ways of discriminating against Black people and keeping Black people within a certain economic standard, or in terms of services, in terms of virtually everything, politics, in every particular way. So the way that as a Black person one should look at it is that you are living in a country that has an issue, right, that it has not overcome. This is not the best country it could possibly be because of racism. You take racism out of the equation in this country, and you have a great country already, I believe, but you would have even a more fantastic country, a country that basically would be able to serve all of its citizens and not have one in a class and one in another class. In the case of how white folks think, I can't really talk about how white folks think. I will say this, that we have had a year, this past year, with the murder of George Floyd becoming prominent, and with the marches and all of those things, which has been refreshing in a way. Obviously, the tragedy of George Floyd cannot be overcome by just this situation, but we saw what we call allies of African Americans in the streets protesting and saying Black Lives Matter, and going back in terms of context, with the quote systemic racism, and talking about those things. Of course, there's been a backlash. There's some folks on the white side, and even maybe others who are not necessarily white, who are saying, hey, this issue of Black Lives Matter, which is a component, some would say a component of what they call critical race theory, right? Critical race theory, as some of you may know, was forwarded by a Columbia professor, I believe decades ago, about how this country and its systemic racism continues to be pervasive, and how it needs to be addressed in that way. But of course, you have a backlash now that's saying critical race theory should not be taught. It should be taken out of schools. And so there's a backlash. And I just might add, whenever there has been any sort of progress against racism or anti-racism historically in this country, there's been a backlash. If those of you who are here that are a little older like me, remember the 1960s when the Civil Rights Act was passed by or signed into law by Lyndon B. Johnson, excuse me, President Lyndon B. Johnson, and the Voting Rights Act was signed into law in 1965 by Lyndon B. Johnson. Well, there was a backlash, okay? And the backlash, of course, affirmative action was a part of it, part of the Civil Rights Act. Affirmative action was done away with, or completely reduced and disabled in terms of how it affected people of color, in particular African American people. And you had a situation where you had literally the Democrats became the Republicans, and the Republicans became Democrats. Two parties sort of flipped. Yes, and because most Black people at the time in the 1960s, I believe, my understanding is, were Republicans. Right? So then you actually had a flip where many Black people became Democrats. Why? Because the Democratic Party, which was actually the racist party, many of the Democrats, the what they call the Dixiecrats, the old line Democrats, moved into the Republican Party at the behest of Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon became the president subsequently after the Lyndon B. Johnson, and that created what we have today. Sort of the Republicans being Democrats, Republicans. That's just one of the what they call clapbacks to what we call progress. So we can expect there to be more of this, and it's going on right now in terms of the critical race theory attacks, and sort of the idea that there is no such thing as systemic racism.
I have another question, and the listener's question kind of is like a two-in-one. So they wanted to know where were you born and what is your migration story? And then, as from experience, as my parents, depending on where you're born, just as an immigrant, depending on what country, they never dealt with racism in their country. It was more like classism, or, your city, your country, your, darker, lighter, whatever, like that kind of thing. But they never dealt with racism in their country. So can you tell us a little bit about where you're from and your experience the first time you came to the United States and your experience with racism? And then the listener's question as a part B to that is, how have you positioned yourself to win in spite of the isms and schisms?
Okay. Well, those are excellent questions. I was born in Jamaica, and I lived there for only 9 years before my mother brought me to the United States. And Jamaica, as many know, is a country that supposedly is a black country. If you peel away the layers, you realize that Jamaica is a country that is ruled or still in some way under the auspices of the Queen of England, and Jamaica, of course, got its independence in 1964. It's a very young country. It's still under the Governor General of the UK, and so I surmised that there is some level of racism going on in Jamaica now, even though the optics are it's a black country, black ruled, etc. So I moved from there and I came to the United States. We moved to Harlem, and of course, a very black neighborhood at the time in the 1960s. And so I didn't really know about racism per se. And sometimes that's actually a good thing, right? So I ended up going through the public educational system. I had white teachers, I had black teachers. I ended up going away to school in a predominantly white environment. And I think all those things, when one comes from another country, like Jamaica, as young as I was, you actually don't know about all of the interwoven issues. So you don't really think about them. So I didn't really think about that stuff. And so I ended up just sort of, having a path set for me, and I followed the path. Did I encounter racism? Absolutely. I was called different things, while I, was in that school, the particular high school, predominantly white high school. It wasn't like an overt thing, like anybody was walking around with Klan robes or anything. But there were issues that I could see were a part of why this country is the way it was. So I really studied it. I studied it afterwards, and especially when you look at the history, you look at how African Americans have been treated. You look at the social classes. You look at the neighborhoods. You look at the Harlems. Why did Harlem, at the time that I was there, why was it so run down? Why were there vacant, burnt out buildings? And why was there, why were there little gangs running around? Why were these things not taken care of? Why were little boys, black boys, being shot in the streets back in the 1960s? A lot of people don't, may not even remember it. Black boys were being shot in the streets of my age and older in the 1960s. And a lot of times the police would report that there was a gun next to them, and it would usually be a toy gun. Why? Because back in the 1960s, fake guns looked like real guns, and vice versa. So the word was, and I heard it from others and adults, that a lot of these road cops would have a toy gun on them, shoot the kid, and put the gun next to them.
Wow.
And so these things have always existed. So I've done a lot of studies on the history of the United States and how these things, how the police have been used, for instance, and that's one way, right? That's one way to enforce racist policies, when you have an armed group that can just basically go in and do whatever they want and get coverage and get immunity. And so I've been able to look at it, those things. Of course, the great thing about this country is that if you can focus on what it is that you want and your ambition and your goals, and just leave all the other stuff aside. Just leave the, and you're fortunate enough that someone doesn't, pull you aside and gun you down as a part of the, the systemic process, then you will be successful. But of course, the problem is that, and the way that Black Lives Matter resonates with me is that it doesn't always work out that way, because you may still be caught up, in this situation, no matter what you try to do or what path you have. And that's why I concentrate myself, even as an immigrant, on the racism that exists that may not necessarily have pervaded my life per se, but certainly I know has pervaded others' lives in the United States here, and actually worldwide. Because I do look at, I mentioned Jamaica before. I believe that racism is a worldwide phenomenon that has been created and orchestrated from Europe for centuries. And so this United States is still part of it, is how it's done here. But if one looks at history, you will see the pervasive, whether it be colonialism, imperialism, slavery, you'll see it manifested in many different ways. And it all comes down, in my opinion, to racism.
Yeah. A couple more questions. How is the belief of the different social segments in society influenced by conversations on race in mainstream media? And how does that affect the way Black and brown people are treated?
That's an excellent question. We've had conversations, over the last year and a half, with George Floyd being the line of demarcation in particular, where issues of racism have been discussed in the media in ways that was not discussed in a long time. I'm not going to say never, but in a long time. Again, this country is still growing. This is still a young country, in my opinion. So there are ways that things can be done. But the problems with me are that the media, and I happen to be a media major. I studied communications media when I was in college. So I liken myself to have a little bit of an edge when it comes to looking at these things. I always go back to who owns the media, right? That's what I was taught. Well, who owns the media? Who owns the radio station? Who owns the television station? Who owns the newspapers? And you're going to see usually the perspective of that ownership within the writing or within the coverage. And so to the extent, again, that there's been some lip service to issues of racism, I would like someone to tell me if there's really been any changes, right? Yeah. If there's been, we know that there's, certain things like stop and frisk have been, outlawed. In fact, even, in New York, I can look at that. But I would like someone to tell me how there has been really any particular change. So there are discussions, more discussions than before, but of course that the backlash has been coming up, right, regarding critical race theory and other types of things, voter suppression, things like that. Yeah. And so I don't know if I could fully answer the question, except to say that there has been some lip service. I haven't really seen anything concrete that has been done, and perhaps I can be corrected. Maybe somebody out there can give me something that tell me something I don't know.
We have a comment, and I think we have time for one last question. The comment says, a white man carries out a mass killing. He was reported as a volunteer, mental health, etc. Black man killed in public. He was a felon, drug user, etc. My opinion. That's from Mim Masterclass. Hi, Mim. Yes. That question. We did highlight that question earlier. We have another question. A comment from Satin Brownie says, I think racism or prejudice is the result of a build up self-hate and jealousy among one group, then projected on people who choose to love, live, and be in spite of how we are treating them. Yes. And we have one last question. It relates to media. It's just an overall question. How much do you think the media influences how we view ourselves, Black and brown people, socially, physically, psychologically, emotionally? all of that.
By that, I take it you mean mass media. But I will tell you this, that media has taken on a different definition over the years. Many of you are aware of Communications Law 230, which has allowed the internet to become a source of news. The FCC had its standards, Federal Communications Commission had its standards where the mass media, the big, CBS, NBC, and those stations were given licenses, and they needed to, they get to disseminate information as well as whatever entertainment. In this case, Communications Law 230 allowed the internet, which was burgeoning at the time in the 1990s, to basically, disseminate. Anybody can disseminate any information. So, look, UME radio may be a part of the benefit of that, right? But at the end, at the end of the day, you do have what I call crackpots out there who have been able to corner certain segments, certain niches, and influence a certain groups of people. So my answer is more along the lines of you have the mass media, and many of them are really pretty straightforward. I mean, they may have their little biases, but you're going to get more, sort of pure news than you would if you go to another source where someone is talking and creating some sort of political dynamic for everything.
More commentary.
Right, more commentary, more prejudice, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I believe one of the reasons why we've had a problem getting a hold of COVID-19, in terms of folks coming up with all kinds of reasons and all kinds of ways, whether it be the vaccine, whether it be denial that COVID-19 is as serious it is, or even the virus that it is, and people have died as a result. So that's the problem that I have. There are too many influencers out there, and the only way to fix it is to change the law. Communications Law 230. Facebook obviously has been one of the proponents of that, but Facebook has also been a part of the problem, right? And so, right, as you know, in terms of election fraud and election tampering from foreign countries, no less, right? So again, that's the other thing. This is a more open society, so you're going to have more and more information. So right now, there is a problem with people even believing what they hear, certain people, and what source they're going to get it from. Obviously, UME Radio, I would recommend as a fantastic source, because as I've seen and heard, you guys tell it like it is, and that's the way it should be. And certainly, hopefully you guys will continue to thrive and be the flag bearer of truth.
Yes, and Satin Brownie says yes, obviously. Thank you so much, Mr. Wilson. With that being said, I want to say thank you so much for being on UME Radio. You're an awesome guest. We love having you here, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, folks. Have a good one. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
The Excel project is a vocational training center that will offer a variety of basic life-building skills to young people ages 16 to 24 years in marginalized communities. While the young people of Mount Vernon, New York will be the primary group to benefit from this program, there are others who will also gain access to growth opportunities through the program. This includes ex-convicts, seniors, entrepreneurs, and business owners, and today we'll learn how. The Excel project is sponsored by Women and Men of Excellence Outreach Ministries, which is a faith-based nonprofit organization that focuses on improving the quality of life for the community at large, under the leadership of Apostle Dr. Faith Walters, who we will be speaking with today to learn more. Hi, Dr. Walters. How are you on this beautiful day?
Oh, my goodness. I'm doing fabulous. Thank you. Can't complain. Thank God I'm alive and well. Praise God.
That's great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So firstly, I believe our listeners and viewers would love to hear about the conception of the Excel project from the great Apostle Faith herself.
There's so many people out there that need Jesus Christ, and there's ways that we could do this to help to build them. So when you bring something that they could benefit from, it's more efficient for them to grow and as another way to share the love of Jesus. So what I looked in my community and I realized there's a lot of young men hanging on the street corner, which I do minister to a lot. And not only do I from quite some time, not only they sell drugs on the corner, they constantly drinking and doing just hanging out in the corner, fitting young men, and there are times I would have conversation with them. Sometimes I would pray with them and encourage them in different ways. And many of them told me they would love to go back to school, or they wanted to improve in other areas, and they needed a job. But because a lot of them had some stint with the prison system, many of them have felonies. So when you have felonies here in America, it's very difficult to find a very good job. And also it's very difficult to even get any type of student loans if you want to finish your education. So, over time, as I ministered to them and just really trying to encourage them, this thought came to me, that we could do something. I have a program that can help them to do just that. Because also being a teacher in the school system, and even my children growing through the school system, they had vocational training school classes. And after time, because of funding, they kind of cut out those programs, and they mostly focus on children being doctors and lawyers, or going to college, or some kind of different type of higher learning. But I'm a teacher. I worked with special needs children, and I know a lot of them, don't have that level. I mean, you teach them to go through, but they can only go as far as they can go according to their abilities. So I teach them to work according to their abilities. But I know a lot of children with special needs, they like to do hands-on. And even, and I look at those young men in the street, and they also have a lot of skills themselves as well. So, and I find that plumbing, a lot of these blue collar jobs have gone out the window, construction, different things, electrician, locksmith, all those things are not really a strong focus here in our school system or in our communities at large. So I asked God to give me a plan to help them, because really and ultimately I want to find a way to prevent them from getting into more trouble and returning back to prison, because that is not the answer to our young men and young women, because God made them with so much gifting in them, and we got to find a way to bring that out.
Thank you.
God bless.
If you are interested in the Excel project, you can visit the website at theexcelproject.com or send an email at info@wamo.org. Remember to support Dr. Faith's building fund also at wamo.org/donate. Until next time, I'm Trisha Gay Kelly, and you are listening to UME Radio. Stay connected.
All right, guys, it's time for entertainment now, going beyond the music, dance, box office, and thrills that flow from the entertainment industry to get deeper and more meaningful insights into the minds and hearts of the players. We will be having a very special focus today as our very own Marsha J, international recording artist, worship dynamo, entrepreneur, creative director, and now mentor, launching her creative network, Business Street. Girl, you got it going on. You got it going on.
Thank you, Jessie. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
You
I'm
are
so
So what had inspired you to develop a creative listening, branding, and promotions program for faith-based creatives known as Business Street?
Okay, so first let me start with the definition of Business Tree, which is an empowerment tool to help faith-based digital creatives build a business around Business Tree. So just by the very name of it, business, TRI. So it has to do with the Trinity, God, things like that. And so combining business and ministry, that's how we came up with the word business tree. Now, I feel emotional when I get asked that question because when I understand what it is like to have a full-blown corporate job and then having God call you out of that into ministry, and then there are questions like, what does ministry look like, and then observing those who are actually in the creative space and how they may or may not be handling what it is. And then based on my own experience, I realize that sometimes unless you have like a label behind you that is an investor or some sort of support, then you find that most creatives, they really go on to not being or manifesting their full potential. So thinking about all of that, I said to myself, why not create a network where there can be support and not just support? Because being a creative is expensive. Can I just put that out there?
Yep.
Extremely expensive, from the look to the education to having the team. And so most times what we find is sort of a one-man band mentality that happens in the industry. But then if we look at even the Chinese and all of these other cultures, we find that they bond together and they come together in order to create and be so much more than who they are. So the network actually is a hub where persons can actually come in, and not just come in, but they can get help, they can get expert advice, they can have, all the grooming that they need, because there is the ministry, there is the industry, and there are so many sides to it, so it was very important for me, because my purpose in life is really to empower 1 million people. And as a creative, most times you find that creatives are multi-skilled, multi-talented in various areas, and sometimes, honestly, I don't think they get the credit that they deserve. So let me just pause
They don't. Period.
And to all the creators out there that's working extremely hard on their craft to make sure that they are correctly aligned and positioned to execute the task that is ahead. So, those are some of the things why, Business Tree, out of that Business Tree was birthed.
Right. So we have some awesome comments coming in. Satin Browning says, look at growth, blessings all over you, Min Marsha J. We also have congratulations, Marsha J, boss lady. And we have 2 questions coming in. How do you get into that kind of mindset, though?
Listen, it is not natural. Can I say that? You are the average of the 5 closest persons to you. And so one of those better be God. And you also need a coach. Yeah. So I must take this time to also acknowledge the coaching that I received from my coach ministry. And you guys can go and check out that website. Absolutely phenomenal person, Coach Racquel. And she's very much a part of us here at UME Radio. Coaching, what it does is that it changes your mindset. It changes your perspective. Along with being a faith-based person, and of course, reading the word and having God speak to you through many ways and means, there are practical things that you need to do. I actually said to myself, if Usain Bolt is the fastest man on earth and he needs a coach, then who am I not to need one? Yeah. Right? So make sure that you're surrounding yourself with persons who not just have the capacity to take you from point A to point B, but also encourage you. They're like genuine people that are in your corner. And I've been blessed to have several persons along the way in my journey who has definitely assisted me in having the kind of mindset. I was also very blessed and fortunate to be a part of Style Records, and that experience and being connected with them, understanding because of their own experiences with other artists, what the mindset needs to be, what the work ethic needs to be, and things like that. So those are just some of the things that helped to change my mindset.
Awesome. And I know that, as a kind of a creative, I know that coaches, just in life in general, we need someone to, be our piggyback kind of and be like, nope, you're going the wrong way.
Yes. Can I just add that too, that in the growth process and even in coaching and getting advice, you will make mistakes. Let's just put that out there, because sometimes what people see on a stage or on a platform or on social media is actually the top at a very deep iceberg, because there are a lot of emotions that comes with being or becoming, and you have to be able to be in a place where you can sit with those emotions, process, make apologies if you need to, make mind shifts if you need to, and sometimes it's not as easy as it looks. So yes, I agree with you.
Yeah, we have another question coming in. What steps did you have to take to achieve this, and did it cost a lot of money?
Listen, the value of it, I know I cannot pay for. It does cost. It does cost. In terms of the steps, actually, it all starts with a person. It starts with me, right? Sitting and understanding, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? What do I want to achieve? What is the end game, right? And most times, some of us just are stuck there, what we want to be. But the actual journey itself is a bit foggy. And you'll hear me use that word a lot because I experienced a lot of fog along the way. And so it took a lot of conversations, a lot of research, a lot of networking in order to get to that place.
Okay. We have another question in regards to Business Tree. How is this network positioned to provide these solutions to members?
That's a great question. So the benefits of Business Tree includes having your own digital billboard, right? You're going to be enrolled in a professional network, and there is a 12-month success plan that you get to be a part of. And I just want to stick up in here too. This was created by Mr. Keith Marrett, and you will get out of it as much as you put into it, right? So you'll also have access to client database because we operate within the network itself, access to support and resources, and definitely exclusive access to omni-channel promotional opportunities. So Business Tree is actually the Caribbean arm of BrandShare, and you can visit getbrandshare.com. So it acts somewhat like a bridge between Jamaica and the US, because what we also find is that once an artist hits the ceiling in Jamaica, where else is there for them to go more than to expand their territory? And we want to make sure that we are trying to, we have that opportunity available.
Wow. Okay. All right. And we know that was created by UME Digital Media Inc. Awesome. And I know we have a special guest here that is going to talk to us about, working with you. And we have in studio today, we have record label executive Karl Marrett. Karl, thank you so much for being here. You hear me?
Hello, hi everyone. How you doing? How's this? This is a great opportunity. I can hear you. I'm a little bit distorted to understand. So I'm just trying to sort of work out the little kinks as to why I'm hearing the distortion. Can you hear me clearly?
Okay. Yes, you can hear you clearly a little bit better now. So let me give you some props here really quick, guys. If you guys are new, you don't know who Mr. Marrett is. Mr. Karl Marrett, he is a music producer extraordinaire. Karl Marrett is spotlighted once again for his musical ingenuity as the winner of the Song d'Or International Songwriting Competition. This was in 2019. Marrett won in the instrumental category with his winning melody, Options. This is not Karl's first rodeo in the music business. No. Karl Marrett is a record label executive and performance coach. He has over 25 years of experience in the music industry and has launched the careers of over 10 recording artists. He has worked with celebrities like Ricky Lake, Mario, 98 Degrees, Voices of Glory, Marsha J, our very own, Araya Elaine, Aki K, Katora, Althea, and many, many more. All right. Marsha, how was it working with Mr. Marrett?
Well, the experience for me was very new because I'm fresh out of corporate by the time I had connected with Style Records, and I was an absolute novice to the whole experience of recording and what it took to record, and then being connected with them and being in the studio. Actually, for my particular record, it took us 30 days to create I think it was a 15 track album, and I had to be doing the lead, doing the supporting vocals, soprano, alto, sometimes tenor, and writing and understanding and interpreting, because that's important, because I did not write all the songs on the record. So it sometimes took days for me to interpret a song the way it really should come out. So I think it was a beautiful experience overall.
Wow. And we have coming in Miss Apostle Faith Walters. Morning, Apostle. Good morning. Good morning. She says, "Oh, wow, Mr. Karl Marrett, great to see you on this segment." And we have Satin Brownie saying, "This woman of God right here is anointed. Love your music."
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Oh, Marsha, you got some fans. Your fans are just
and I listen.
Let
me just pause here to say thank you so much to those who have supported me non-stop during the journey. And when I say support, I mean persons have been sending videos, they've been inboxing me words of encouragement over time. And I really, really appreciate just having persons in my space that support the craft and support what it is that I do, and I do it for you. I do it unto God, but I also do it for you. So it's my pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Yes. And with support, we're just going to do a little plug here. You want to get her album Favor on all digital platforms. Or go to marshajnow.com. My Way I Get It, I got it I have mine on Spotify. Just quick and simple. I have everything there. So, yes. All right, so we have another question that comes in. How will you build another artist in business tree?
Oh, that question is for me.
How will you build you?
Okay.
How would you build other artists in business tree?
As I mentioned before, there are various tools that we use to build an artist. All right. So, for instance, providing a landing page. We all know that websites, they are expensive, like a proper website. So to know that you're in a community where you actually share platform with others, that is an adage to the mentoring and the coaching is critical. And this is where we sit down and we have conversations about how you're positioned as an artist. What does your social media page look like? There's a plan that comes into place where we have to sit down, have conversations, learn about the artist, the direction that they want to go, and then position ourselves around that based on the experts in the network, in the room, to help you chart your way as to where is it that you want to go. And this also means, as an artist, there is a certain type of expansion that sometimes happen. We always hear about building a brand, and building a brand doesn't necessarily mean that singing is the only thing that you do. If you look at popular artists like Beyonce or Rihanna, they may have fragrances, or they may have a hairline, or they may have other things that are supporting the business itself. If you are open, the possibilities are endless once we start having those conversations. And we always encourage persons who come in to do what you love, do what you're passionate about, because naturally you're going to gravitate towards that. So there's coaching, there's mentoring, there's assisting you with branding in terms of your social media look and other things like that. So yeah, it's quite a bit that happens.
So awesome. We have comments and questions for Mr. Marrett coming in. We have Les Abel that says, "Congrats, Marsha. We are so proud of you."
Thank you.
We are so proud of you. All right, so Mr. Marrett, we have a couple questions for you. So we know that Marsha J is one of your successful artists. How proud of you? Can't talk today. How proud are you of her and this project, Business Tree, that she's launching? Karl, can you hear us? I think you're muted. You gotta unmute for a second. Can we get Karl? You're muted. Let's see if I could do something.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. There we go. Yes, we can hear you. All right. So I'll just say that question just to say, how proud are you of Marsha and launching Business Tree?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's a little challenging hearing. Oh, wow. Well, I'm extremely proud of her. She's grown from just, obscurity to a phenomenal artist, and she's developed, more than just being a singer. She's developed as a woman, as a businesswoman, and as a minister, and she's grown into what you can see right now. That shy Marsha that I met is not as shy, and her ministry, has impacted so many, more than just the little circle, just the little persons that she know. It has gone international and worldwide, and also we don't, we are not, how should I say, sure how many thousands are being impacted by her ministry. I'm extremely proud of her. She's resilient, and she worked through some of the most difficult seasons and time of her life, and was able to accomplish the things that she accomplished.
How and when did you fall in love with music?
Just having a little trouble.
No problem. Can you hear me now? We have the question that came up on screen. How and when did you fall in love with music?
I think you may need to repeat that, Jesse.
Yeah.
How and when did you fall in love with music?
How and when I fell in love with music?
Yes.
As far as I can remember, my mom had a guitar. I think it was about six, seven. My mom played a little, the little girls, a little choir from church, and I thought my mom was actually the greatest guitar player in the world. And it's from then I started to, that's from then I started to play. Start to get an interest in playing. End up moving to my uncle's home when my mom migrated to America, and from it had a little guitar, and then that's when we started to really get interested in music, and I was playing the bass and so on. Yeah, so that is where sort of the birth came from in music, and the most interesting thing was that I was always wanting to create rather than just learn something. So that's where it's the birth came from, my mother.
Oh, wow. That is really, really beautiful. And Sally, we want to continue this conversation, but we got to wrap up with time here. But we do hope that you had a great time on UME Radio, and we're going to do a part two. We're going to do a part two to this because we got to have you back. We have one. Well, I'm getting news. We got time for one more question. And
sure.
This is for Marsha J. Can you tell us a little bit about the Business Tree membership?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Okay, so to sign up for Business Tree or to learn more, you can always log on to Access Business Tree, and that's TRI, Access, ACCESS, Business Tree, TRI.com. And once you get on the website, on the front page, there is an icon in the center of the page that says sign up for free membership, because you have options: become a premium member or partner with us and collaborate. And that's the quickest way to do it in order to sign up.
All right. And can you tell us a little bit about your current members?
Oh, yes. We have some absolute fabulous members that are on now. We have Miss Trisha Williams, and she has a kids brand. She is the JCDC in Jamaica. There's a competition called the Jamaica Gospel Competition. It's a national competition. So we had 2020 winner on board, Miss Trisha Williams, and she has a brand. Aside from the music brand, she has another brand called Empowered Minds with a Z, and that's a kids brand that she has. We have Seeds of Praise, which is out of North Carolina, and they have a dance academy. See, all creatives. We also have on board, we have RQC Boutique, Simply Weddings. We're partners with Family All the Way. And so it's just really been a joy collaborating in these spaces with these phenomenal persons, right? And so there it is, the website that comes up. So Seeds of Praise, definitely out of North Carolina. They are a dance ministry that we now have under Business Tree, and we're so delighted to really be working along with them. And they have also Tiny Seeds, which we're going to have a spotlight on right now.
The Seeds of Praise Dance Ministry. Stop. The Seeds of Praise Dance Ministry 2011 and the Seeds of Praise Dance Academy in 2018 were founded by Micheline Ruffin. In the beginning stages of the dance ministry, founder Micheline Ruffin connected with Aliyah Logmeyer to form the Seeds of Praise Outreach Dance Ministry. The 2020 through 2021 staff are Missy Ruffin, Director, African Beginner Ballet and Creative Movement Teacher, as well as Brianna Hubbard, Assistant Director and Tiny Seeds Teacher, Ashante, Reggie, and Tiara Payton, Mime Teachers, Trishawn, Ballet Teacher, Shamiz Fergie, Teens Ballet, Tap, and Jazz Teacher, Desiree Belnavis, Hip Hop, Erin Buckland, Flags Teacher, and Lorna Ray, Fitness Teacher. We like to share a clip from an interview with Brianna Hubbard on our UME Radio Kids podcast with Tiny Seeds. Their kids dance ministry was featured on our spotlight.
For our babies, we have about 3 different age groups. We have our Tiny Seeds, which are ages like 2 to 9 to 10. They get tap, jazz, ballet, tumbling, and then occasionally African and modern. They get 30 minutes of each genre. So each week I flip-flop. So maybe one week we'll do ballet, tap, and jazz. The next week we'll do tumbling, tap, and modern, or tumbling, African, and ballet. It just depends on the mindset of the kids that week. I go off what they give me. So if I see if the kids come in and they're not too excited to be here that day, or they don't have any energy, I'll start with something that I know they're going to enjoy, which is usually jazz or tumbling, or I start off the class allowing them to kind of have their own free reign for about 15 minutes, let them run around, flip, talk, to get themselves up in spirit. I never force my kids to do anything they don't want to do. Let's say, for example, I like this piece you have up right now. For example, I had a hard time getting them to cooperate with tap because they weren't used to it. It was something that they knew. And so what I did is I incorporated some of their choreography. I asked them what they wanted to do, and it made it more fun for them to learn. I always believe that a child has a lot of creativity. I may not use all of their choreography, but I always give them input into what, they want to do. We have a variety of children. All of our kids are not technically trained. We have kids who come in they've never danced before. And their parents expect their kids to be able to get it the first day, and they don't. And that's okay. We always tell every student we get that everyone can dance. You don't have to have any level of dance to come in and learn how to dance. Dance is something that we can teach, and we have the patience to do that. One thing that I do say is kids require a lot of patience, and kids know if you don't have patience with them, they're not going to try their best. Our kids are very versatile. They love every genre, and we welcome most kids. Sometimes, because I'm the baby teacher, I do take them at 1.5, depending on the brain capability of the child. Most times it is 2, but depending on the capability and the mindset, I can do 1.5. If the child is able to keep up and mentally be okay in class and not cry and want to go to mommy, then yes. But most times, no, we start at 2 because by the age of 2, they're more independent, even if it's for 20 minutes. 20 minutes is better than nothing. I encourage the parents to drop your kid off and leave them. If they can go 20 minutes without you, keep doing it, because as the time progresses, they'll be able to stay longer in 30 and 40 in an hour, and they won't be worried about you because now they have friends to play with, and they're having another curriculum that's not always in the house or driving the parent crazy because the kid wants to play. So now the kid has an outlet. The younger ones, I do not require them to stay in class and hold out. If they're in between the age of 2, I expect them to get distracted and want to take a nap and want to eat a snack. I give them 15-minute breaks every 30 minutes.
If you would like to support Seeds of Praise in its mission to spread the gospel through the arts, please do so by visiting getbrandshare.com/Seeds of Praise. Your gift will allow Seeds of Praise Dance Academy to impact many lives. Welcome to Voice of Truth, where we take a look inside migration and immigration stories, community health issues, and stories of hope, based on the experiences of migrants who are people of color. We use other people's stories as a cautionary tale and point of reference to enhance the life outcomes of our migrants.
Awesome morning so far, Jesse. We are inside travel. Welcome, everyone.
Yes. Hi.
Yes, one of my favorite segments, indeed. Jesse, if you ever know what's happening to me on this side, my computer is just going left.
Is it going? So we'll let you guys.
I think I found my bearings now. All right.
Oh, gosh.
For global entrepreneurs, this show is for the traveling entrepreneur, people who seek ways to elevate, level up, and create pathways for growth opportunities. We also share with you travel insider deals, tips, tricks, advice, and other information to empower you. So today we have a very special guest, and you've already met her here during our news highlight, Miss Christie, a Jamaican living in Kyrgyzstan, where she serves as a teacher in Spanish and English. So, Kimberly.
Hi again.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Let me open with this question. Type of icebreaker. When you realized that you had to leave Jamaica to go all the way across to Kyrgyzstan, what was the feeling? What was that like?
Oh, all right. So it is something I always wanted, to be honest. But there's a difference between when you really want something and when it actually happens. So when I received the contract, I mean, I screamed, I cried, everything. So it was something that I really got excited for. And then when I got to the airport, I was crying because I'm like, oh, this is really happening. And then getting there was another thing. So it was just a whole wave of emotions.
Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Tell us a typical day for you in Kyrgyzstan. What does that look like?
All right, so a typical day in Kurdistan, a typical work day is just getting up, going to work. Socially, there are many restaurants there. They love food. So there are tons of restaurants. So it would be either going to a restaurant, going on tours. They have a lot of historical sites. It's actually a Bible land too. So there are elements of the Bible like the Tigris River from the Garden of Eden, etc., etc. So you get to do tours, you get to explore where you get to explore historical sites. You can look at the Christian territories because there are quite a number of them there. And again, it's just food. They'll feed you. If you go to a village and they know you're a tourist, they're like, do you want something from our farm? Or, can we offer you something? Do you want me to take you out?
Oh, hold on. Right? So coming to my mind. So let's first talk about the farm. Like, what are some of the things that you see on the farm? And when you say food, what are some of your favorite foods from Kyrgyzstan?
All right. So they have peaches, melons. They have some of the fruits that we have in Jamaica. Some of them too, they import from the US. So there are a wide assortment of fruits. So before I left for the summer, they had a whole lot of melons to the point that they were giving them away because everywhere you look, they had this wide land space of melons. They plant heavily. So they're like St. Elizabeth times 2.
Wow.
So, sometimes they're trying to get rid of their onions. Sometimes they're trying to get rid of their tomatoes. So, so they do have, a wide variety of fruits. And so it's not like I'm missing Jamaica when it comes on to fruits. And they have fruits all year round. So it's just that with their fruits, they're very healthy people. They eat lots of tomatoes. They use a lot of seasoning in their foods, etc. They don't like spicy food, really. So you'll mostly find spicy food with the Damascus restaurants or the Indian restaurants.
Interesting. Jesse, I think I just saw a question pop up.
We have a couple of questions. Yeah. Apostle Faith Walter says, where is Kurdistan located? I never heard of it.
All right. So again, Kurdistan is the closest country is Iraq. You can also travel by bus to Iran and Turkey. Some people prefer to travel by bus to both because it's cheaper. We're also close to Dubai, Qatar, Lebanon. Afghanistan is somewhere out. Yes, about 4 hours there out. So yes. Kurdistan, Kurdistan.
All right. So we have another question that comes in. Well, wait. Well, you didn't tell us what your favorite food was. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food is definitely the beef and chicken shawarma. I love it. It's almost like eating beef patty.
Oh.
Right. So it is something I never ever go on the road and not get. So it's a food that I must have when I go grocery shopping, because every corner you're going to find people selling shawarma.
Awesome. I think I had, if it's very similar to like the texture of like the Indian shawarma, like that, is it like that, or is it the seasoning or spices are
Yeah.
different?
All right, so the we call it now, it's almost like a roti, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then they have the chicken pieces and beef pieces, and they'll give you the option of adding onions, tomatoes, cucumber, and they use the purple onions. Most of them use the purple onions because it has a bit of sweet and tangy. And of course, you can add your own pepper if you want, or ketchup, but they won't add it for you unless you ask them.
So you ask from. Okay. We have some questions coming in from Satin Brownie that says she would like to hear more about the Bible Land. Does it connect for you? Does it connect with the written stories in the Bible?
Pretty much it does. One of the funny things for me was when because they had a series of disruptions, I would say, and one of the places where the disruptions were was Nineveh. And the thing is, I'm saying is like from in the Bible, Nineveh is giving trouble until 2021. So there's always something about Nineveh. Nineveh is always in the news for something. The Tigris River is one that we can see. Tigris River, it flows through. There's another place that is called the Holy Ground. And when you go there, you can't wear shoes. You can wear socks. That's the only thing you can put on. They say it has some connection with Moses. I did not try to find out much more about that because, again, it was a tour day, so we didn't spend a lot of time. They have the olive tree, so they do the whole olive oil thing in droves. They believe in the same healing properties like what churches use when they're anointed with olive oil. So they believe in that, and they also anoint people if they want. So you have a church there that is Pentecostal. My dentist is actually a minister there. And so when he asked me about church, because the thing is, he was doing my teeth. Before he gave me the injection, I said, Jesus Christ. And then he said, hallelujah, amen. And I was like, okay. And then he asked me church, and I told him, I said, Church of God. And then he said, tongue talking. And I'm looking at this man like, what are you talking about? So that was when he expressed to me. He's actually from Baghdad, Iraq. So, it has been a unique experience.
Question, do you have to... I have so many questions coming this morning, but I have to ask before Jesse continues. Tell us about the language here. Did you have to learn? What's the name of the language?
All right, so you have some people who speak Arabic, and you have some people who speak Kurdish. I was of the impression that Kurdish and Arabic, they are pretty close, somewhat like French and Spanish, where if you hear a Spanish word, they can understand our French, something like that. But it is different. And you have some people who just don't understand Kurdish, and you have some who just don't understand Arabic. So for me, I know enough conversation to tell them where I want to go, or to tell them to stop if I'm in a taxi, etc. But I understand some when they're talking, but I cannot speak enough. And I cannot read their language either. So, yes. So there are language barriers. We have to deal with that a lot. I have to deal with that a lot. Sometimes I chat with my friend who understands the language, so it makes it better for me.
Awesome. Thank you for that. We're going to go back to the comments, though. We have someone asking up some geographical and we have a map that we're going to pull up so you can kind of help us to about it. So we have Wama Ministries, Apostle Faith Walters. How far is it from Jamaica or the US? Oh, there we go.
All right, so it is I think if you pull up a map of Iraq, you would see it better.
Yeah, I don't know if you're able to like zoom in on this, but if you like zoom in on Google and kind of go by like Iraq and Syria, like the top
Yes,
part.
all right, so we are close to Syria. We're close to Syria because, as I said, you have people who leave for. All right, so here we have Baghdad. All right, so pretty much below Baghdad here, you'll find Kurdistan. Somewhere in between the wording Baghdad. I think I'm seeing a K here. Somewhere right along here. Where I think I'm seeing a K on the map. So somewhere right along there, you'll see it.
Wow, that's amazing though. How long does it take to get there though? Or how far? Like in terms of hours?
All right, so it's a combination of 21 hours flight time. So 3 hours from Jamaica to what am I talking about? Yeah, so from Jamaica to Miami, right? And then from Miami to Turkey, that's going to give you 16 hours, or some people choose New York. So from New York to Turkey, that's about 15 hours. And then from Turkey to there, you get 2 hours. Some people choose Qatar, and the Qatar route is pretty much the same anyway, in terms of travel time. So it doesn't really matter which one. It's just that the Turkish airline is a bit cheaper than the Qatar Airways. So that's the only difference, but it does not minimize the flight time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. That's a lot of sleeping and waking though. 21.
Yes, that's why. So when I travel on Turkish Airways, I get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So that is how it is. So on one airline, I'll get 2 different meals, either lunch or dinner, and the other one, of course, will be breakfast. So, yes.
Awesome. And we have a listener question here. Jesse?
Got it. There's 2 of them. Satin Brownie says, do you experience racism there?
Definitely not. Only discriminatory thing is that they are not used to Black people being professionals. Because the thing is, there are a lot of Africans there, and the female Africans, they're mostly there as maids. So even if you find Black people there, it is not a wide population of us as professionals. So sometimes they'll ask you, like, the Africans, they're very excited when they see another Black person, and we are just as excited to see them. And sometimes they'll ask, who is your boss? Because, as I said, they're expecting you to be a maid. And then the thing is, they have a great respect for teachers. So once they know that you're a teacher, it's like the color of your skin has disappeared.
Wow.
That kind of goes into Apostle Faith's question that says, what was it that gave you the desire to work there?
Well, it was actually an opportunity that was presented to me, one of my friends, who we worked at the same school, my former school, Jamaica College. And she, through connections, she got there. And then she told me that, it's not a bad place, it's safe, and it's really safe. And, she said that it's something that I'll enjoy. She said that she knows that I like things about history, and it is a place that is biblical. So she sold me this place based on my interest. And that is how, and she said, of course, you're going to love the food because I know you're a foodie. So all of those things got me sold into wanting to go there. And I can't say that I regret my decision.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow. Thank you so much for answering that question. Compare working as opposed to going on a vacation in Kyrgyzstan.
All right. Working there. Working and vacationing. All right. There are people who come there for vacation purposes. From, how would I put this though? Beautiful place, right? It's just that there are no beaches. It's not a Jamaica. Some of the times my students, when they Google Jamaica, because it is through me that they even know that Jamaica exists.
Wow.
So they look it up and like, Miss, why did you leave this beautiful place to come here? You know, Miss, it's boring, whatever. Because, it's the activities, the social activities are not as much as you would find in Jamaica. But for people vacationing there, it is an experience that they will enjoy because, the locals, they will try to get you to do some outdoor activities like camping. When you pass along the roadside, you'll see people having their picnics, taxi drivers having their picnics, playing games. It's commonplace. Nobody is troubling them. So for tourists, like say you guys decide to come and visit, I mean, it might appear to be a culture shock at first, but riding it out after a day or two, you get an appreciation of the place. It is like an acquired taste. So it is not to say, oh, I'm going to go rafting or I'm going to go swimming. The dressing is more, well, they're expecting people to dress appropriately. So not the rider shorts, not too much of the tube tops, etc. But when you go to restaurants, because a lot of people, what they do, it's like a mini America, basically. So like when you go to restaurants, people will wear their coats, and as soon as they're inside, they'll take them off, and then you'll see these short dresses and tube tops, but they'll never wear them on the outside.
Interesting.
Right, because it's still a Muslim country.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for that. Wow. I'm really enjoying this conversation. If you are just joining us, we are Inside Travel Boss, and we are speaking with Lady Kimberly Christie, who is an educator in Kurdistan. And she's just been sharing with us in this segment about the cultural experiences, religious experience, being an educator over there. Ms. Christie, thank you so much for being with us and for answering all the questions. Listen, the next time you come and you have this conversation with us, and we have questions still coming in, you have got to give us a look inside your photo album, just to show us some of the highlights of being in Kurdistan. Just your question.
That would be awesome. We do have another question that came in. How have you engaged other Jamaicans on this opportunity? And the other one is, if that is something that you have interest in doing, you have such a delight. You are such a delight.
Oh, well, yes, I have in fact told people about it. The school is like a group of schools. So their website, Sabis Careers, is always open for people. So I've spoken to those who may have wanted. I switched schools actually from Sabis, but my school, the school that I'm at now, even though it's an international school, it's not as wide scale as my former school. So pretty much I'm the only Jamaican there. I'm one of 3 Black teachers there. So it's very hard to hide. So yes, I'm the only Black teacher in high school as well. So it's something that I do. And if anybody wants, they can always go on Sabis Careers, type that in Google, SABIS, and they'll see a list of schools they have in Africa, Asia, they have in North America and South America as well. They keep expanding. They just opened a school in China. So, yes, if anybody wants to try, opportunities there.
Definitely, definitely. And with that being said, I just want to encourage persons who are watching too to visit mytravelchecklist.com to book your ticket to Kurdistan, Kurdistan today or whenever you desire to. It was really such a pleasure. There was another comment. Did I miss a comment, Jesse?
To spell that Sabis, Sabis.
Right.
To connect with more. Okay. Do we have time for one quick question? One more question?
Yes, I think we do.
We do? Okay, one question. Can you give us 3 lessons that you've learned so far and one thing that you would have done differently?
All right. So one of the lessons I've learned is that to be appreciative of people's culture. The next thing is that people are people. It does not matter the language. And the next thing is just that, it's not everything that is put out there on CNN and BBC is really true. Try to know something else for yourself. And what was the other one?
What's one thing you would have done differently?
What I would have done differently is go there sooner. Had I known of it.
I gotta go. I gotta go. That's on my list now. That's on my travel list. Definitely.
Okay, that's wonderful.
All right. So
you can send me a reminder to send you the pictures and I'll do so.
Definitely. And we will definitely have you back to have that conversation.
Okay, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, one moment.
We got one more?
I think we do. We're trying to accommodate.
Do you love to travel? Have you heard about mytravelwishlist.com? My Travel Wishlist, a UDMI travel brand, provides all-inclusive solutions to travelers. We provide 3 key solutions. 1. Travel booking for any occasion, individual or group. 2. Destination weddings, family retreats, and adventures for kids by or partners. And 3. Travel share and earn program. We have a network of travel advisors to help you find the true veil in your travel. He is one of the owners of mytravelwishlist.com. Greetings, Mr. Marrett. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic here. And how about you yourself?
I'm great, actually. You're about to tell us a little about mytravelwishlist.com. Our audience would love to know, what is it about?
Well, as you know, travel is an amazing thing. And I was one of those persons who was fortunately had the chance to travel extensively over the years. I was a part of a band and we did a lot of travel internationally and nationally. And so travel, I think, is a great thing. Expand the mind and give you a sense of how big this world is, and you can imagine more. And I think wealthy people are ones who normally travel. It's called My Travel Wish List. And of course, it's a UDMI travel brand, and it provides all exclusive solutions to travelers, right? So like a one-stop shop, because sometimes traveling can be very stressful, not sure where to go, how to go about it. So we're here to help you navigate that process so you can have a good starting point in your travel to a good ending point in your travel. So that's pretty much the fundamentals of what it is to give you that experience, where it's not stressful and you feel all burning down, and you walk away saying, hey, I found the right help I needed, and hopefully you can share with others, and so they can have the same experience.
So, as
Yeah.
a client myself, maybe I want to use this medium to travel someday, and so I want to know: can I travel to every part of the world, or are there specific destinations?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if you want to go to Iraq right now or Kuwait, but pretty much we can travel everywhere. You're looking at different airlines and hotels. I mean, travel booking for any occasion and any individual or groups. All right, destination weddings, planning, and so we have the networks that's in place to facilitate whatever the needs are. So the travel wish is really saying you come to us and tell us your wish, and like Santa Claus, we make it happen. So it's like what we do. We go to work for you. So what we do, we hear your needs. You're going to convey to us what you want. We can also share some things as well. Once we hear what you want, we're going to be able to offer you different ideas and options that may be comparable to what you want, or pretty much as close to as possible to what you want. So the wish is just saying, I want this, and then we go to work for you, and we be able to present that to you and say, hey, this is where you can go, this is what you can do, and you will get to not only enjoy the experience, but you feel in control of the experience. You feel like you're actually making that decision, and then it'll be more fulfilling to you. So it's an experience that you can enjoy, or we can enjoy together, to make you a happy client.
Our final question to you,
Go right
Mr.
in.
Marrett, is what are some of the benefits of
Yes.
booking through My Travel Wish List?
We want to empower people. All right. So not only can you travel, you can earn from your travel. Why spend? Why not earn? So we can show you those aspects of it, where you can not only save, but become an earner.
Are you ready to travel? Let's go. Log on to www.mytravelwishlist.com for more information.
All right. So just to note, as we close off our travel segment, that the comment earlier, it is not the intention of our show to discredit any media or source. The comment of the guest was not intended to discredit CNN or BBC, who we all know are highly reputable media entities. And now we go to Wealth Mindset.
Welcome to Wealth Mindset, a place where there is equal opportunity. A place where you decide, flourish, and commit. Where you have the freedom to be and thrive. Don't just fuel your passion, but walk in truth, in your divine purpose. Reap the rewards God has for you. Join us while we take a look inside the purpose mindset, where we look at business sense, money matters, coins and currency, and checks and balances. We talk about growing your network, net worth, and net income for your family and the community. Let's empower Black families and support umeradio.com. Don't also forget udmibrands.com and familyalltheway.com.
Summer. Listen, 10 sweet yet short weeks to enjoy some of our favorite traditions. Maybe it's sipping an ice cold drink on the porch, spending a weekend at the beach, or cooling off with the kids at the pool. It's almost to an end. Now that you think about it, you might even decide to treat yourself to a new porch swing, or even a beach umbrella, or suddenly realize that you need to buy more goggles because the kids lost theirs again. So before you start filling up your online shopping cart, Jesse, we've got some tips for everyone that they'll want to check out. No pun.
Yes. Yes, I know. Pun was good, by the way. So we're going to check out some online shopping tips. We have 2 articles to share with you guys from consumer.ftc.gov. And the first one is what to know before you buy something online. So when you guys buy something online, you want to make sure you do comparison shopping. I know I do. So you use the power of the internet to compare prices of different websites. We got these tips about using comparison shopping websites. So, you know, you go on Google, you go on eBay, might find it cheaper on Amazon, might find it cheaper on this other website. You know, do your comparison. Also take into effect shipping and how fast you'll get it.
Exactly. And always watch for fine prints. I always say that too when you're doing comparison in online shopping, because those fine prints will get to you. They'll tell you one checkout price, and then when you actually check out, icon that has a note below it. So guys, look out for that.
Think critically about online reviews. Reading other people's opinions about a product can help you make a decision, but some reviews are downright fake or not completely honest. You may not know when a reviewer got something like a free product in exchange for the review. And
True.
I know that I use Google. Sometimes I use, you know, if you're on Amazon, let's say, and you just scroll down to reviews. Some people are just mean to be mean because I've gotten the same product. And I'm like, why are they making such a huff and puff about this little thing? You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. And sometimes you have a little blue icon that pops up and it says verified purchase. So you can look out for that as well.
Pay attention to details. Before you buy something online, know when it'll ship and what to do if you want to return it. That is completely true, especially if you buy on small brand businesses or like Etsy and some of those places where if I'm shopping on Etsy per se, I'll look at where that business is from. It might not actually be in the United States. It might be in Africa or it might be in Europe or something like that, which is why it takes longer to deliver. So you want to make sure you know when it'll ship, how long the delivery time process is for it to get to you, so you're not shocked and like, why is this taking forever to come to me? Tip number 4, pay with a credit card if you can. That way, if you get billed twice for the same item or you get billed for something you never got, you can dispute it.
True.
I have had to do that before. And last but not least, find out what personal information shopping apps collect. Shopping apps might give you exclusive deals or reward points, but they might also take your personal information like your name, number, and email, and they might use your device's location. So, you know, we always get that pop-up on our cell phones, allow for this app to look at your location, and it does tell you like they're going to have access to X, Y, and Z. You have the option to deny it or allow it.
Yes. Spot this or any other scam, it's important to report it to the FTC at reportfraud.ftc.gov. Definitely important. Right. Yeah, and so go ahead, Jessie.
Oh, now we're going to go into your retailer, know your retailer and your rights, because like you said, Marsha, there's a whole bunch of scams, and COVID-19 definitely opened the doors with a whole bunch of things going on. So we want you guys to be protected with these scams that are going on. So when you shop online, sellers are supposed to ship your order within the time stated in their ads, or within 30 days if the ads don't give a time. If a seller can't ship within a promised time, it has to give you a revised shipping date with the chance to either cancel your order for a full refund or accept the new shipping date. So before you shop online, especially from an unfamiliar retailer, remember these 3 things. Check out the company or product. Search online for the name plus terms like review, complaint, or scam. See what other people say about it. Read the seller's description of the product carefully. If the seller has name brand goods at steeply discounted prices, they might be fakes.
Yeah, can I tell you that I got caught in a scam one time way back when, before I was educated about it. Spent some money to get, I think it was a dress that I bought, and then I just didn't see it within the stipulated time that they said that they would have delivered. Went on Facebook, having conversations back and forth. And yes, somebody did respond. But even with the response, I still didn't get the product. And so I just started trolling them like, listen, you guys are thieves, things like that. So you definitely have to be careful about that. Check out the company. Check out the company. Yeah.
Number 2 says, look at the terms of the sale. Make note of the total price, including taxes, shipping, and handling, the expected delivery date, and the policies for refunds, including who pays for returning, shipping, and if there is a restocking fee. And last but not least, again, pay by credit card. You'll get protections under federal law, so you don't have to pay for things you ordered but didn't get. And also, if someone happened to use your credit card without you knowing, buying a purchase, they will be able to refund you if it was not you. So, and I had to do that before and call a credit card company, and there was a certain type of product that was purchased. This is for LTR mostly. And I'm like, I do not use that product. And they had to cancel it. But in the time that it took to cancel the order, it was already shipped out. I still got my money back. But I'm just like, oh, okay. Yep, that's what it is. And then I just eventually canceled, not my membership with that company, but just got a whole new card in general. But yeah, that pretty much, guys, is
but before we go, though, I want us to have a quick conversation with Racquel, and she is a digital strategist for UEMIBrands.com. Hi, Racquel. Welcome.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you so much for
I come on your show on so many roles. So today I'm speaking as the digital strategist. Yeah, this is such an interesting conversation that you're having. And I just want to underscore, a lot of times, right? Like when we work with persons, they're constantly saying, oh my God, this is so difficult. Can you make this easier? Can I just go in and do this and do that and move through? Can I just, even sometimes they make a purchase and then they call us back and they say, what was this? What was supposed? And we're like, the terms are right there in front of you. And you have an obligation. And I know that a lot of persons, like, for example, my persons in my network would say to me, can you make it simpler? Can you make it simpler? And I would say, no, I can't make it simpler, because the compliance, the terms, their key information that they just have to get, whether they buy or not. It's better for you to decide not to go through it and not buy it or agree to it than for us not to have it there. So sometimes I always say, either someone else work and you pay, or someone else pays and you work, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to come into the consciousness of, when I am expecting ease of access, when I'm expecting easy flow, whatever it is that I'm expecting, who pays for it? Because in the long run, a lot of us are paying for it, and then we're wondering later on, and we're sad later on, why is this costing me? How did this happen to me? Why is my computer system not functioning properly? Why is my phone not working properly? Why am I seeing strange pop-ups? Because of ease, because you desired ease, then there's certain access you gave out to your own devices sometimes, and you're not even realizing that that's what you're doing. You're giving people you don't know power, and this is just my personal opinion, but you're giving them power of attorney over what you're doing, over your operations. It really is. When you're and we have to get to the place where we take online seriously. I say to persons, especially because at UDMI Brands, we serve digital entrepreneurs and businesses, and we build we do digital enterprising. We help our clients to build digital enterprises and then provide them with support. And it's not just regular support. We ensure that the way they're operating, we work with them to ensure that the way they're operating online is in compliance, that 5 years down the line, you don't get wealthy, you hit the millions you were hoping for, and then boom, you get slapped with charges. The way you collected that was not right. The way you did that was not right. Because it's when you're not earning, nobody cares. But the minute you become successful, everybody cares. Now, you may be thinking, yeah, but we're not really earning right now, so all is good. But what happens if tomorrow your business goes millions? How will the digital decisions of today impact your business tomorrow? If your business tomorrow hit the mark?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What will you do then? And for those who are shopping, take the time to read. You cannot be making purchases and not look at the terms of the sale. You've got to, or otherwise you're going to pay later. You either pay time now or pay money later, right? So it is important for persons who are online to understand how different platforms operate. Are you on a website that is being maintained? Are you on a website that could make your device vulnerable? Are the websites you're visiting and browsing, are they safe for you to go there? Do they protect you? Those are questions we have to ask, because people have a tendency to separate digital from physical. I don't. It's just another way of operating. It's all space, right? You see, we got comfortable with our feet on the ground, so we believe that everything happens on the ground. But no, everything is happening in the mind.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter the application, whether it's on the physical earth or in the virtual space, it still is a physical virtual space, because you have to have devices and those things. So it's no different. A website is no different from going to an office in a plaza or a mall or whatever you call it, wherever you are. It's the same thing.
Totally agree with you, Coach. And even just reflecting on my years in banking and moving from pen and paper to the digital space, and you'll hand a particular document to a person and you'll say to them, okay, these are the terms and conditions. You'd be surprised how many people bypass reading and just go straight to signing. And they never have a problem signing until something goes wrong with their account or something. And they're like, but it was there.
Exactly. Exactly. And you have to take the time. It's called wealth mindset. You have to mind your business. And your business is you. So there's some persons who would say, I'm not an entrepreneur. You are. I believe you're an entrepreneur by default. And the reason I say that is because you were designed and created to create. You were designed in the image of him who, or he or she, or whatever you call him, your understanding of God, the one, the creator who created us all. He created us in his image, right? So we are creators. You're an entrepreneur by default. You don't have the luxury of just abandoning the CEO or chair position in your own life. And if you do, I promise you, someone will take that seat. I like the I don't know if persons really got the dialogue that Jesse shared at the beginning of Voice of Truth today, but it's very important to pay attention to whoever pays runs the ship. Whoever pays, whoever did the investment is the person in charge. You can't not pay and then show up expecting to receive something. And I think that's what's happening to a lot of people right now, where they don't want to invest in it something, or they want to pay. You see, I think you always get what you pay for. If you pay cheap, you get cheap. Yes. And so even in shopping, when you shop and you choose, I want this deal and I want that deal. You see, it's important we have a company called Shop and Own. We don't just say, okay, let's hop over here and buy something. Everybody shops on Amazon. But who reads what you're shopping for on Amazon? It takes time, right? We don't just go and say, let's pick up this and give to you. We actually do our homework. We actually do the checks that needs to be done to make sure that we're not making you vulnerable, right? You have to do that. And a lot of persons don't do that. And if you have someone who has to do that for you, you've got to pay them, because we don't understand every service comes at a cost for someone. And if you're not going to do it for yourself, then you may end up having to pay someone else to do it, whether directly or indirectly, whether knowingly or unknowingly. So we really have to be careful. And I like that you guys are talking about this, because this is a big deal. I say to persons, you need to consider your digital strategist or engineer, or your digital whoever manages your e-commerce platform is no different from the manager of your business. And I don't understand why people don't get that. I don't understand it at all. There are people who have websites that has no maintenance and you're shopping there. Have you taken the time to learn about the vulnerabilities of doing that? Would you go to a business place that is not registered and that is not in compliance to buy something? Would you go to a business place that doesn't clean its floors to buy something? Then why are you doing it online? Why are you doing it online? What's the difference?
True. Thank you for that
Because it's
comparison.
virtual? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that. We want to go to the comments because we are winding down, and we have one more ministries, Apostle Faith. She says, so true, coach, to read everything before ordering. I got caught up in some situations like that when I ordered from a US company and realized I couldn't return certain items because I was dissatisfied. And she continues to say, I ended up had to keep the products which I didn't want anymore. Oh, on Amazon, I read the reviews before ordering the majority of my orders. Awesome. And she says also, yes, it's a great deal of information that you give your listeners. Thank you, guys. And thank you to Apostle for sharing with us this morning. But I absolutely agree, Jesse. Like, you just got to do it. You can't afford to be lazy. You know, you have to be accountable to yourself.
Exactly. And even not just only shopping online, but in store, when Coach Racquel says you pay what you get for. And, you know, my mom always made this little thing, which is true. Like, 2 things you don't buy cheap are bags and shoes. That was her thing. Don't buy cheap bags. Right? If you're gonna go cheap, 2 things you don't go cheap. Definitely shoes. Don't buy cheap shoes. Nope.
Yes, by the time you pay for it.
And I would add to that, do not buy cheap websites.
And websites.
Buying a cheap website.
You could tell a cheap website from the get-go. And Racquel, I want to say with the cheap website, guys, there's so much, you know, you don't have to have a digital background to make a website. I mean, I have a website, and there's websites called Squarespace and Wix and everything else that makes you have a professional website. And also You and Me Radio, we do that for you know,
and we are no official
partners
partner
with us. We're official partners with us to do that, you know, and we help you guys do that. And it's also, it's really prevalent to have a good website because that's your business page. That's like, imagine that as like your
billboard.
It's no different. It's no different and should not be seen any different than your physical business.
Right.
And this is the question I ask sometimes, like when persons talk about the websites, it's like they expect to get a website for $100. Like one time someone reached out to us and they have a website that they wanted for $100 to sell cupcakes for $100. No. If you're opening a business, you're thinking about grill, you're thinking about security, you're thinking about you don't want anyone to break in. So why do you think online is any different?
Yeah.
I could give you a $100 website, but my integrity wouldn't allow me to. Because I know what the results will be.
Yeah.
Yes, we don't at UDMI. We don't work with any company we're not in partnership with. So, for example, Wix, we're actually an official partner with Wix. We have a partnership with Google, partnership with PayPal, partnership with Amazon, all the major companies that that your website need to function, right? And people don't understand. You've got to get into the seriousness of it. It's no different from your physical business. It is commerce. Physical commerce and electronic commerce is no different. It is still commerce, right? So be conscious of when you're building your websites, because more than building it is ensuring compliance of your website, security of your website, because anyone can design it. Anyone can design a website. We don't build websites for clients. We build marketplaces.
Yes, and not just being
your website,
but educated about it.
When we build a website for you, the site works for you. You don't work for it. and it's a complete company, it's a business. So I know a lot of times persons take it for granted. Oh, why am I paying this? If you were to pay, anytime you think of any business, you have business management, whether it's a physical business or an electronic business. It's the same thing, people. And I'm saying this to persons to understand, and let me tell you why it's important to understand. Nobody cares if you're not making money. But the minute you do, you start wishing you didn't design it yourself. You start wishing that you had hired a professional. You start wishing, because the minute it hits money, find out what happens when you win the lotto. Don't take it from me. You have to understand that you're running a business. It's a company you're building, or a business that you're building. You have customers, real life customers that can sue you. Real life customers that can drag you through a judicial system. You've got to take e-commerce seriously, because that is where we're operating right now. So good job.
Yes, important. Jesse, I think we have some more comments coming in.
Yes, we have some comments from Apostle Faith Walters that says, for sure, don't buy cheap shoes because your back and feet will be screaming later. Yes, they will. Also says, you are so worth it. You work hard, so treat yourself to the best. Exactly. And last but not least, Shakespeare saying, to thine own self be true. Never be cheap with anything that affects your overall makeup of you.
That's beautiful.
Yes, very beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Apostle.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Yes, thank you too for stopping by, Coach Racquel. And I always love the passion with which she speaks, and it is just true. Once you decide to be online and to invest in an online platform, whether it's having a website or simply purchasing something, because I know that when we talked about our first point, which is comparing prices, sometimes it's not Amazon, sometimes it's another platform that may have it cheaper, but then when you receive the item, you're looking at it like, okay then, right?
Yep.
Exactly. And so that is why we also encourage you to go on over to shopandOwn.com. We do our checks and balances, make sure that everything is okay. The service is on point. You are safe. Safety is important, especially during time. And of course, you get quality products. Wow. Yes, do that today. Jesse, with just a minute to go. I see it's coming in.
We have, and what have you traded for discount unknowingly? Yes, because sometimes you be spending that price and it's worth it because the quality that you're getting is top notch. You have to worry about it for years to come.
Yeah, and that is why we do wealth mindset: innovate, develop, elevate, and activate and serve ideas. It's all about the mindset and how you see it. And you want to know that whatever it is that you're doing, it is something that you can pass on to the next generation. Your habits, your practices. What are you plugging in? How are you changing the culture, especially for us as people of color? How are we changing the culture of wealth? These conversations are gems. They are golden. Yes. So thank you so much for joining us inside Wealth Mindset. It is time to go, Jesse. Time to go.
It is. I'm sorry, guys. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for joining us on our show, and hope you guys have a great week.
Take care.